What's going on, fellas? Welcome back to the stream. This is a part of our essentially daily live stream where we stream 8 p.m. Eastern Time every single day during the week, as well as 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. So let me just get myself situated. I'll allow a little bit of time for some of you to join in chat, and we'll get right into some of the news that we had from yesterday. Let's hit this goal quickly. We'll set that up. Let's hop in here. And okay, so welcome everybody. So since we talked yesterday, I mean, this week in general hasn't been that action-packed, to say the least. This upcoming week, this upcoming weekend, it is fight week for UFC Vegas with Roman Dolidze and Fluffy Hernandez. There's not too much excitement about this card, obviously, and rightfully so. It's an Apex card, and the card itself is not that good. Last week, it was an Apex card, but I thought there were good fights on it. This week, I mean, maybe there's a few, but for the most part, it's not going to be a great card. So really, the only news that we've had thus far this week is a couple things. So the first thing I wanted to touch upon is Joe Pyfer and a boost in Magomedov is in the works. We kind of heard some rumors about this prior, but I think this is essentially going to be guaranteed to happen at UFC 320 in October. So that's just another pretty good fight to add to an already pretty good card, and we'll see where it goes. The main event of that card, I believe, is Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. So this one's going to be fun. I do believe that Joe Pyfer is going to win the fight. I think the first round of the fight is going to be fun though. And yeah, could be top of the prelims kind of fight, maybe back of the main card kind of fight. We'll see where they place it. We'll see how stacked the card is. But that's the first thing we have. And this is the second thing we have. We kind of had two separate reports on kind of the same thing. Arman Tsarukyan saying he has a 70% chance he'll fight Ilia Topuria next for the belt. He's the number one contender. He feels like he deserves it, which he probably does. I don't really think there's another option at lightweight that would deserve it more than Arman Tsarukyan at this point. But I know Dana wasn't that happy with Arman. We'll see how everything plans out. And I know also Ilia Topuria said he didn't want to fight Arman. But we'll see how it all plays out. There's also another report, which I don't think is accurate, but there was a report that Chael Sonnen was saying it's 100% going to happen, Arman Tsarukyan against Ilia Topuria. But Chael Sonnen has said a bunch of things in the past, and he's usually wrong. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. But as I said multiple times, I definitely would like to see this fight. I think Ilia versus Arman is the fight to make, just because, Arman is the legitimate number one contender. He's also the toughest fight for Ilia Topuria. And I'm an Ilia fan, of course, but I would like to see Topuria go up against the highest level in competition. And if he's able to beat Arman, which I do think he will be able to, but if he's able to beat Arman, then going forward from there, if he decides to move up to 170 and fight Islam, we'll have a little bit of a better understanding of how he may do in that sort of fight. So we'll see what happens with Topuria and Ilia, or Topuria, or with Topuria and Arman, or Topuria and somebody else. But that's kind of what we have at this point. If they are going to go with Arman, I am assuming they're going to do Arman versus Ilia in December. That's what I would assume they would do. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, really not much. That's really all the news that we got from the last time we spoke. As I said, it is fight week. There are a couple of decent fights that I'm relatively interested in. The main event, I think, will be fun. Roman Dolidze and Fluffy Hernandez. It'll be interesting to see how Roman is able to fare on the ground. In the past, I mean, we have seen Roman Dolidze do some pretty good stuff on the ground. He has pretty good jiu-jitsu. But Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is kind of a tier above compared to some of the other guys that Roman Dolidze had success against on the ground. So we'll see how he fares. Also, Fluffy is known to gas everybody out. So this is a 5-round fight. We'll see how Dolidze fares. Definitely could be an interesting one for sure. 305, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. But yeah, but outside of the main event, honestly, if legitimately, the only other fight that I think could be somewhat fun is Steve Erceg versus Ode Osborne. I think Steve should have this one. I think he kind of has Ode covered everywhere. On the feet, I think he's more technical. Even on the ground, if he wanted to wrestle, he would have an advantage. So I do think Steve Erceg has Ode covered. I think he'll beat him, and I think, honestly, he'll finish him as well. So that's one to keep an eye on. Maybe Christian Rodriguez versus Andre Touchy-Feely. That could be interesting. CLD versus Eric Anders could be interesting. Probably not an amazing fight, but could be potentially a finish there. Julius Walker is probably going to get a finish. Elijah Smith is probably going to get a finish. And honestly, that's really it. Not an amazing card. Definitely not an amazing card this upcoming weekend. But as I said, after this upcoming card, we do have UFC 319 the week following, which will definitely be very fun. Dricus Hamzat, Lerone Murphy-Pico, Jeff Neal Prates, Cannonier MVP, Tim Elliott, Kai Sakura. Really, really good main card. And honestly, it probably is the best main card of the year, at least on paper. We'll see how it pans out. But on paper, I do feel like it's one of, if not the best main cards of this year. But we'll see how it plays out. Sometimes you have fights that on paper don't look so great, like we have for this upcoming weekend. Maybe this upcoming weekend's card will be fun. And then other times you have cards that look great on paper, but don't necessarily pan out on the night of. So we'll see. We shall see. But I was talking about this a bunch before, but really after this one Apex card this weekend, every other week that we have fights is going to be really fun. Obviously, as I said, 319, that's going to be great. The week after that, we're going to have UFC Shanghai, which is going to be great. Johnny Walker and Zhang Minyang for the main event. Ortega Aljo, Sergey Waldo Cortez Acosta, Tulio, Michelle Pejeda. Even have Loner Kavanaugh and Charles Johnson, Kevin Borja, Sumerdarji. There's a lot of really fun fights on that UFC Shanghai card for sure. So we'll see how that one pans out. I'm expecting it to be fun. The only thing about the Shanghai card is it's going to be very early, at least for anybody in the US, but maybe a better time for my Euro friends. John, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. So yeah, that card is definitely filled with a lot of fun fights. Then you have UFC Paris, which should be good. I mean, the main event's fun. Caio Bajalio and Imavov. In the co-main event, you have BSD, who's always fun. But the rest of the card is, decent fights, not amazing fights. But I kind of feel like France sets itself up. So usually the crowds are pretty fun. So, yeah, see people making a big deal about that. Yeah, I agree. The cards are really good. I really feel like this is the last week that we're having a card that's not going to be great. It's in the Apex, and on top of that, the actual fights themselves don't look great on paper. But after this weekend, we have a great stretch. And even though after 319, we have a couple of fight nights in a row, or more than a couple fight nights in a row, but they're all good. The Shanghai card is good. The Paris card is solid. I guess the one card that's not amazing is the UFC Noche card with Gene Silva and Diego Lopez. That's probably the only good fight in the card, but we'll see. Maybe they'll add some other fights to that card and bolster it a little bit more. But regardless, I mean, it's not an Apex card. It's going to be in an arena. We'll see how it pans out. And that main event is legitimately very good and very fun. And Lopez versus Gene Silva. Then the week after that, we have UFC Perth, which is going to be fun. Great crowd, great main event. Olberg and Dominic Reyes. The week after that, we have UFC 320 with Magomed Ankalaev, Alex Pereira, Merab, Corey, Yuri, Roundtree. So that's going to be great. The week after that, we have Umar Nurmagomedov and Batista, which will be fun. We'll see how the rest of the card is. And then the week after that, we have UFC 321. So we kind of have almost back-to-back pay-per-views in October. I know we're not having cards in pay-per-view cards in September, but in October, we're getting back-to-back cards to kind of make up for that. So pretty good stretch coming up. Pretty good stretch. People complain too much about UFC cards. Yeah, I would probably agree with you, John. So I definitely do think we have a pretty good stretch coming up, a lot of fun fights. And even after, that last fight that I mentioned, UFC 321, there's already been some rumors or maybe even announcements for some other cards after that. So I know there's been a lot of complaining about the UFC being in the Apex too much and not having great cards. And I've been one of the guys who have been complaining for sure. I'm not saying that I'm not. But when you look at this stretch that we have coming up in late August as well as the fall, good fights, really, really good fun fights. and it seems like it's going to be extending into November and probably December as well. As in November, they always have the MSG card, which is usually really good. Last year wasn't amazing, but usually it's really good. And this year it's probably going to be JDM and Islam, and the co-main event honestly might be Joshua Van and Pantoja. So that'll be great. And December cards are always great. So good stuff ahead for sure. Like a lot of people come on. Yeah, I mean, listen, for some cards that is true. Like when you look back at some of the recent cards that happened, like for example, this previous weekend, I do think there were some meaningful cards on the Apex card last week. But when you look back at a card like UFC 318, I think there honestly wasn't a lot of meaningful fights on that card. There were some fights that turned out to be fun. Actually, all the fights in the main card turned out to be really good. But in terms of like meaning, there wasn't too many of those fights on that card. So for that fight, I think people may have a legitimate beef for. And even the week before that, Lewis and Teixeira, honestly, once again, there weren't too many fights that had all that much meaning. So for those couple of weeks, I would agree with him. But for the most part, when you are talking about pay-per-views, they're mostly meaningful and impactful fights. But, you know, it kind of depends on the card. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But there's only a certain number of fighters. Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. But I think, you know, I mean, listen, there is a fine line between fights on a pay-per-view main card that are fun fights and some fights on a pay-per-view main card that are meaningful. And for me, what I would personally like to see, which is not always possible based on time, based on dates, based on, you know, fighters' willingness to fight each other, what I would personally like to see for pay-per-view cards is, you know, the main event is a title fight, co-main event, another title fight, and then the 3 fights below those 2 title fights, I would like to see fights for a number 1 contender spot, fights that have legitimate meaning in the weight class. I know it's not always possible based on whatever factors the UFC is dealing with, but I personally would like to see more impactful fights on the main card. And then for the prelims, you can have young up-and-comers. Maybe you can have some fun fights that don't have all that much impact. But for a main card of a pay-per-view, usually you would like to see fights that have meaning. But for fight nights or prelims of a pay-per-view card, you know, go ahead. You can put together fun fights for sure. Joshua, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. But yeah, we shall see what they do for November and December. We shall see. What do you guys think the slate's going to look like for those few months? As I said, I kind of feel like what they're going to do is, you know, with some of these rumors, I feel like what it could be is for November, for MSG, JDM Islam, that's essentially guaranteed for the main event. But for the co-main event, as I said, I think it could be Pantoja and Van, which would be great. But for December, that card, usually the UFC loves to stack the last pay-per-view card of the year in December. And I kind of feel like it might honestly be Topuria and Arman. I know for a while I was saying Arman's not going to get the shot, but it kind of feels like things are moving a little bit in his direction. So we'll see if they give him the shot. I personally, as I said before, like I would personally really like to see that fight. I would love to see Topuria versus Patty. Topuria versus Gaethje. I mean, I would watch it. It'll probably be a fun fight, but I'm not super excited for that. But for me, the fight that makes the most sense is definitely Arman versus Topuria. Arman is the number 1 contender at this point. He's got a bunch of wins in a row. He's also the toughest matchup for Topuria. I still think Topuria beats Arman, but still, it's the toughest test for Topuria. And usually you want to see champions fight, you know, the toughest test in the division. So I would probably like to see that. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. If it is Topuria versus Patty, I'll still be happy with it. Patty doesn't deserve the shot, but at least you'll have good pay-per-view sales from the UFC's perspective. You have 2 guys that have beef, and I do think Topuria would win the fight. But we'll see. We'll see. And as I said, I don't think Topuria is sticking around that long at 155. 1 title defense, and he's moving up to fight Islam or possibly JDM. Imagine we get Topuria versus JDM. That'd be a weird fight. But which podcast channel do you prefer? Prefer Wang or Chills? Probably Chills because his channel is pretty funny. But honestly, I don't really watch either one of those channels. that often. But Chael's funny. The thing with Chael is, I know I kind of just talked about it before. He did report that it's 100% certain that Topuria is going to fight Arman Tsarukyan next. But the thing with Chael is he just puts out BS for the most part. It could be accurate, this time around, but for the most part, it does kind of feel like he puts out BS. So, in my opinion, that kind of is a part of the reason why I think he's funny. He's just putting out like random shit, and also his videos are funny. So, I guess I'd lean with him. Islam Judian, Pantoja versus Van for MSG. Yeah, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. I think it'll happen. I kind of hope it happens. That would be a great card. At least a great top 2 fights. We'll see how they fill out the rest of the card. Imagine if the third fight is I know I kind of said Arman's going to fight Topuria, but if Arman doesn't fight Topuria, what if they did Dan Hooker versus Arman as a #1 contender fight on that MSG card? That'll be fun. There's definitely a lot of good fights they can put on for that card. I would rather see Tyra versus Pantoja. Wow. I do think Tyra has a chance to fight Pantoja. Well, not a chance. I mean, obviously he could fight Pantoja, but he's going to have to fight one more time, I think. I think probably what they're going to do, what I would personally like to see, and I think they might honestly do it, is they might do Moreno versus Tyra next as a #1 contender fight. And if Moreno beats Tyra, I know he already lost 3 times to Pantoja, but maybe they justify it. Maybe they do it. But if Tyra beats Pantoja, it's pretty obvious he'll be the next contender, and he'll fight the winner of Van and Pantoja. But we'll see. We'll see. I know that Van beat Royval, but it's a different fight. I would agree with you. Tyra does have some skills that would keep him safe and may keep him alive longer than Van. Here's the thing. Joshua Van, I think, has a chance of beating Pantoja. I really do. The reason why I feel that way is on the feet. I just think he's better. I think he has a big advantage. And I think because he's so great at countering, it's kind of something that he's improved upon ever since he made it to the UFC. And at this point, he's very, very good, very effective at countering. I think that will be a huge weapon for him. As on the feet, Pantoja kind of just runs into shots, but he has such a great chin and he's so powerful, it doesn't really matter. But for a guy who's as slick and technical as Van, I think it could matter in that sort of fight. But also the reason why I think Van has a chance is he's really good at stopping takedowns. We've seen it a bunch of times. I know Ray Tsarukyan is not the same level of grappler as a Pantoja is, but in that fight, Ray Tsarukyan is a very good grappler for one. And in that fight, he was only shooting for takedowns. And I don't think he was able to take down Van at all in that fight. So I do think that fight is a good sign for Van maybe going into this fight. But with all that being said, I think if Pantoja is able to find a takedown, then Van would be in big trouble. I think at that point there's actually a decent chance that Pantoja will just submit him. But the difference, so that's the case for Van. But for Tyra, the difference is on the feet. I think he could have success for sure, but he's a little bit more open on the feet than a guy like Van is. But if he does get taken down against Pantoja, he'll have a much better opportunity at surviving and maybe even being a little bit offensive with some of his submissions, as he does have great jiu-jitsu, obviously. So it'll be a lot closer on the ground. I'm not saying Pantoja can't submit Tyra, and I'm not saying Tyra can't submit Pantoja. I just think it might cancel out to a certain extent. So I don't know. There are interesting fights for different reasons, but potentially Tyra could be a tougher fight for Tyra could be a tougher fight for Pantoja than Van would be for Pantoja, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure we'll get the opportunity of seeing both of those fights, to be honest. Pantoja is just beating everybody at this point, but we shall see. So Volk doesn't fight for the rest of the year. It seems like probably not. I mean, listen, this upcoming, or not this weekend, next weekend, there's going to be the #1 contender fight between Pico and Lerone Murphy. And I think the winner of that is going to fight Volk. But the question is, at this point, will they have enough time? I mean, probably. You could probably honestly do the winner of Lerone Murphy versus Pico against Volkanovski in like December or maybe even November. Maybe you can do that. I do think there is enough time between next week and that time for the fighters to recover. Also, it does depend on how much damage they take in that fight, Pico and the winner of Pico and Murphy. And also, it is assuming that they don't have any injuries and they don't need any surgeries. So obviously, it's tough to tell at this point how the fight's going to play out and if the winner of that fight is going to get injured. But assuming no injuries, I do think there is a possibility we could see him in maybe December, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see. The thing with Volkanovski, I think he really wants to get going and fight again, just because I think he probably has like one more fight left. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. He has one more fight left, and then after that, he just decides to retire. If he loses, I think he's definitely going to retire. There's been a podcast that he was on talking about that not too long ago, where he was saying that he was happy about his comeback story, getting back to the belt, but he's not going to do that again. So I think if he loses the belt, he'll definitely retire in his next fight. But if he doesn't, if he wins his next fight, I still think there is a possibility he could retire. He's getting a little bit older at this point. His chin is not the same as it was. Not saying it was ever amazing, but at this point, it's not the same as it was. And I do think a potential matchup between him and Gene Silva will be a very, very tough fight for Volk, to be honest. So we'll see. We'll see what his future holds. But yeah, I'm hoping to see him sooner rather than later. So maybe it'll be December. But if not December, I think we see Volk within the first 3 months of 2026. I don't want to see Volk versus Gene yet. Neither do I. I really just think it's such a difficult fight for Volk. I've talked about this a lot. Volk is like very talented and very skilled, and I think against anybody who's not dangerous, a Lerone Murphy, a Movsar Evloev, I think he does have a good chance at winning that fight just because he's so skilled everywhere. He stops takedowns very effectively on the feet. He's ridiculously technical and fast. Even though he is getting older, he's still really fast on the feet. So I do think he has a great chance against those guys. But the difference is, against a Ilia Topuria or against a Gene Silva, those guys are very technical for one, but also they hit so hard. So Volk could be winning the majority of the fight, but then Gene lands one head kick or one big right hand or one big left hook, and that's it. All of a sudden he gets dropped or just gets TKO'd or KO'd or just finished. And that's why those sort of fights are just so difficult for Volk, especially at this point in his career. I know he did just beat Diego Lopez in his last fight, who Diego is very physical, hits really hard, and can take a shot really well. I think we saw it in that fight. But the difference between Gene Silva and Diego Lopez is Lopez is very physical, he hits hard, but he's not very technical. And I think we saw that in the Volk fight, as Volk was kind of able to expose that. As Volk was kind of just, outclassing Diego Lopez for the most part. Diego landed one shot that dropped Volk, but outside of that one moment, Volk was really in control of the entirety of the fight. But for Gene Silva, it'll be a little bit more difficult for Volk to stay out of the way of a big right hand or a big left hook. And I think that's kind of what we saw in the Topuria fight. Not saying Gene Silva is as good as Topuria, because I don't think he is, but at the same time, I think it's relatively close. And obviously, Topuria was also able to knock out Volkanovski, just putting punches together in combination, being technical, alongside with the ridiculous power that he does have. So, yeah, I also don't really want to see Volk versus Gene, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do going forward from here. But yeah, definitely a lot of good fun fights coming up. Finally, we have some movement at the heavyweight division as well, with Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane coming up not too long from now. I've said this a bunch. I really do want to see Francis Ngannou get signed to the UFC and fight Tom Aspinall. I think that's the way you save the heavyweight division, but at this point, it doesn't really seem like that's going to happen. So it's unfortunate, but maybe you get a guy like Jailton Almeida who turns into a little bit of a contender. I do think his grappling is legitimately elite. The problem with Jailton Almeida is on the feet, he doesn't really have much. He's fast. He's been able to stay out of the way of a lot of big shots thus far throughout his career, which is great. But, fighting a guy like Derek Lewis is very different from fighting a guy like Tom Aspinall. So I'm assuming Tom's going to beat Jailton as well, but maybe it could be interesting if Jailton is able to find a takedown. By the way, who do you got in Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida? I think it's a good fight to put together at the heavyweight division. Volkov, I know he technically lost to Cyril Gane, but everybody thought he won, and he's been looking a lot better as of late. And for Jailton Almeida, I know the Curtis Blades fight was kind of weird, but for the most part, I think Jailton Almeida is a solid fighter at the heavyweight division. So it's a good fight to put together. If Jailton wins, which kind of I think the UFC wants Jailton to win, just because it would be fresh blood for the belt, he'll get a title shot for sure. But in my opinion, I'm leaning with Jailton. I know he doesn't show the best IQ out there all the time. If you look back at that Curtis Blades fight, he kind of just got stuck in a weird position and he didn't move. He just stayed there for the entirety and got finished, which is low IQ. And even if you look back at the Derek Lewis fight versus Shelton Almeida, he had full mount for the entire fight. That was the weirdest fight I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch Derek Lewis versus Shelton Almeida. Shelton got a takedown in every round relatively easily. He got into full mount very easily against Derek Lewis, and he just stared at him for the entire fight. No ground and pound, or very limited ground and pound. No real submission attempts at all in that fight. It was just a weird fight. It was a dominant, obvious decision victory for Jalton, but it's just weird. You would think if you're in full mount for 5 rounds, you would do more damage or find a submission or whatever. So weird. Obviously, doesn't have the best IQ, but also when you look at that Curtis Blades fight and Derek Lewis, he's kind of tossing guys around that are like literally like 300 pounds. The Curtis Blades fight was very impressive in the first round. So I do think he has good grappling. He's really strong on the ground. For the most part, he has good submissions. But we'll see. We'll see. I think the new and improved Volkov picks him apart. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that's kind of been his style as of late, Volkov. This new and improved version of him. He kind of just skirts alongside the outside of the cage, lands a lot of body kicks, lands a lot of jabs, long strikes, and kind of just picks you apart and beats you. We saw that in the Sergey Pavlovich fight as Volkov was honestly just able to dominate him. It wasn't the most exciting performance in the world, but Volkov did a good job at picking him apart, winning the fight, and winning pretty easily, honestly. And even if you look back at the Cyril Gane fight, yes, I know they gave it to Cyril Gane, but Volkov did a pretty good job at kind of picking Gane apart to a certain extent and just having a lot of success. So he is a much better fighter at this point. The only difference, though, I will say at this point, is Cyril Gane and Sergey Pavlovich weren't looking to take down Volkov, and Volkov has struggled in the past with his wrestling. I know it's gotten a little bit better, but I do think Jalton is going to have a pretty big edge in that department. So that's one thing that I will say to worry about for Volkov, but we'll see. It's kind of a binary fight, I believe. If the fight stays on the feet, Volkov is going to do the better work, and he's probably going to win via decision. If the fight goes to the ground, Jalton is going to be able to do the better work, and I wouldn't be shocked if he found a submission. So kind of a binary fight, but a good one. And as I said, probably the UFC wants Jalton to win this fight, just so we can see a new matchup at the heavyweight division. Because even though Tom hasn't been a champion for that long, and he has no title defenses, he's already fought so many guys. Cyril Gane is a new guy he hasn't fought, so that's good. But he already beat Volkov. He already beat Sergey Pavlovich. He already beat Curtis Blades. He already beat Tybura. He already beat Spivak, I believe. He already beat actually that's it. Some of the guys lower in the rankings he hasn't beat, but I don't really think those guys have a real chance at fighting for the belt. Like, for example, Waldo Cortez Acosta, I don't think he'll have a really much of a chance to fight for the belt. I don't think, well, Derek Lewis maybe. Tai Tuivasa, I don't think at this point he's going to be fighting for a belt anytime soon. We talked about it on live stream the other day, but there's a picture going around of Tai Tuivasa. He's very, very overweight at this point, so hopefully he's able to get back into shape. But we'll see. At the very least, it feels like it's going to be a while before Tai fights in the UFC again. But regardless, even besides that, I don't really think he's good enough to fight for the belt at this point. Shamil Gaziev, we have our jokes, but in all actuality, I don't think he's going to be fighting for a belt soon. Martin Budai was just cut for whatever reason. Mick Parkin's not fighting for the belt, and also he's friends with Tom, I believe. Talson Teixeira is probably not going to fight for the belt anytime soon, and Kuniev is coming off a loss. So, yeah, there's really just not many options at the heavyweight division, unfortunately. So, I guess really the only option right now is Cyril Gane versus Tom. Hopefully that turns out to be a fun fight. Hopefully Gane can put up a little bit of a fight in this one. But assuming that Tom does win, which I fully expect him to do so, our best hope, I guess, is Jalton Almeida, which is not amazing. It's not an amazing point if that's really the best next contender. But we'll see. We'll see what they do at that weight class. Tuivasa is in a bad losing skid and a piece of fuck. As UFC 11. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. It is crazy. I mean, he hasn't fought in however long. He's not. First of all, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, I believe. It's either 2 or 3 or 4. Is it 4? I don't know how many it is, but it's at least 3, I think. For one, so he is on a losing streak. Also, he hasn't fought in forever. The last time we saw him was in Perth, I believe, like a while ago, and he got submitted. I think. I don't remember, but I think he got submitted by Volkov. Was that his last fight? I think it might have been. And outside of that, like that was a while ago. And Tai Tuivasa is number 10 in the rankings. That's insane to me. He hasn't fought in a while. He's on a 3-fight skid, and he's number 10 in the rankings. He had a great run initially, like when he was kind of making his come up in the UFC. But when you look back at some of the guys he was beating, like Derek Lewis and Greg Hardy, right? Or is that somebody else? I think Greg Hardy. Yeah. And whoever else he beat, I don't remember. And even dropping Tsarukyan, that was a good moment for him. But his initial come up was great. He was the number 3 ranked guy, and it was legitimate at that point. But then losing to Tsarukyan, losing to a bunch of other guys as well, and Sergey Pavlovich. But it's just not great. Ty's not in a great spot at this point. Oh, 5-fight losing streak. He's also lost twice since the Volkov. Oh, okay. But yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, usually when you get on like especially if you're lower on in the rankings or even unranked, if you go on like more than a 3-fight losing streak or even a 3-fight losing streak, most of the time you get cut. As we talked about before, Martin Budai just got cut after being 7-1 in the UFC. So it is kind of weird to see that he's still here. But what are you going to do? The UFC sees him as a star, so they're just going to leave him how he is in the rankings, and they're probably not going to cut him. If he loses again, if he does fight again and he loses again, maybe they cut him, but I don't know. They just have certain guys that they just hold on to, regardless of the results of their fights are. Kid Low, what's going on, brother? Nothing like juicy MMA at work. Let's go, brother. We time it up. I ask you when you're at work, and yeah, unless you mean yeah, I'm assuming that's what you mean. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming. I guess it really wasn't the money. I'm assuming the UFC was just like, listen, this guy's not exciting, and we're gonna cut him, and he's not a big star or anything, so we're gonna cut him. I'm assuming that's what they said. It really, like in general, it doesn't really make sense to cut a guy that's 7-1, but especially for the heavyweight division. Listen, I mean, if we're being honest, not saying that Budai was going to be anything at heavyweight. I really don't think he would have been. Personally, at least, maybe some people have a different opinion. I don't think he would have been anything great at the heavyweight division. But I guess my point is there's really no contenders at that weight class, and there's honestly not too many fights you can put together outside of a title fight at heavyweight that would be all that exciting. So when you're letting go of guys that have been having success at the UFC level in the heavyweight division, it just kind of seems odd. But I don't know. They just decided to move on from him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But yeah, we're in desperate need here. We really are in desperate need. What do you think? So we were talking about this before. The best weight class in the UFC, it's probably either flyweight or lightweight. You can make an argument for either one. I think both of those weight classes are very deep. At the top, you have Pantoja as the champion at flyweight, and at lightweight, it's Topuria. 2 great champions, and you have a lot of contenders at both weight classes. At flyweight, you have Van, Moreno, Royval, Tyra, Manel Kopp, even Steve Ursig, if you want to throw him in there. At lightweight, you have Tsarukyan, Max Holloway, Oliveira, Gaethje to an extent, Dan Hooker, Patty, if you want to throw him in there. There's a lot of contenders at both weight classes. So those 2 weight classes are probably the best. But what do you think is the worst weight class in the UFC? Obviously heavyweight, but outside of heavyweight, what do you think it is? Maybe like light heavyweight, probably. It's not really much going on. I mean, there's the light heavyweight division, I would say, is a little bit better now than it was, but it's still not great. But yeah. I think the path would have been because you have 2 would literally be bigger than well, that's fair. You do have a point. So yeah. That's definitely a fight they could have put together. Who do you man, you really love Jesse on Fire. Um, I don't know. I guess Jesse on Fire. I'll give the kid a chance here. But thanks for the question. Pun intended. Abus versus Pyfer's a sick fight. The first round will be excellent. Yeah, the first round's going to be great. I think Pyfer's going to win the fight. I think he'll probably win by a finish. I personally think Pyfer does good things out there. On the feet, he has good power, and he also has somewhat of an ability to grapple. It's just his last fight, I kind of thought. I kind of just thought it was a weird performance from him against Gastelum. As he hurt Gastelum, he landed good shots, did good work in the first round, then kind of just stopped fighting. So it's a weird performance. But for the most part, I think Pyfer's a good fighter. I think he'll be able to finish Abus. But Abus round one is great, and I agree with you. I think the first round is going to be tremendous. I think bantamweight is the best division. Bantamweight is good too. It is good too. Let's take a look at the weight class. So obviously Merab's a great champion, so that's great. In terms of contenders, I guess you can kind of say Sean O'Malley, but he already lost a few times. But let's just say Sean O'Malley, Umar, Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen are all contenders, legitimate contenders. You have Vinicius Oliveira, who I think is an upcoming contender. I think he's good personally. Mario Batista, I also think is kind of a good fighter. So he's interesting. Song Yadong, some people consider him to be a contender. I don't know how he's going to do against the top guys, but he has shown decent things. So the bantamweight division is certainly very good. So honestly, there's a lot of things the UFC can do with a lot of these weight classes in terms of number one contender fights, just in terms of ranking fights in general, some title fights. There's a lot of good weight classes, a lot of good depth. I kind of think the UFC is in a good spot at this point, personally. They just got to, figure out a way to put the fights together. But it should be good. Middleweight is good as well. Middleweight is great. Yeah. Obviously, Dricus is a really good champion in terms of contenders. Imavov, Sean Strickland is somewhat of a contender. Hamzat, obviously, we're going to see how that fight pans out. I'm leaning with Dricus. I really am. One thing that I found odd, though, about the predictions on Dricus and Hamzat, I kind of thought everybody would be predicting Hamzat to get the victory. And listen, there's a lot of people thinking Hamzat's going to win, but I've seen a lot more people siding with Dricus than I initially thought. I thought it would be like 95-5 in favor of Hamzat, but it's probably like 70-30 in favor of Hamzat. So a lot of people see the vision of potentially Dricus memeing his way past Hamzat and getting a victory, but we'll see. Maybe Hamzat just ragdolls him in the first round, gets a finish. But anyways, in terms of contenders, you have Izzy, who's, whatever. RDR, who's a legitimate contender. Caio Bajalio. Jared Cannonier's always there. There's a lot of good fighters at middleweight. It's a good weight class as well. I do agree with you. Welterweight is a lot of contenders too. Yeah, let's see welterweight. JDM, I think is a good champion. Now you have Islam moving up to the weight class, so he's a contender. Bilal, Sean Brady, Shafkat, Leon, Usman, Gary, Morales. Honestly, like the top 7, and including Islam, I guess would be 8 guys. All contenders, I think. So a lot of contenders there. I do agree with you. And then outside of like immediate contenders, you also have Carlos Prates, who I think is pretty good, and I think he'll have a bright future. And yeah, the welterweight division is pretty good. I would say the only blemish on the welterweight division is you have guys like Colby Covington and Gilbert Burns, who I think are both a little bit washed at this point, but it's fine. And Joaquin Buckley, we'll see how Buckley does, but I personally was never that high on Buckley, and after he fought Usman the way he did, just getting taken down very easily, I'm really not high on Buckley, but he's still young. He has good power. We'll see. We'll see how he pans out at that weight class. It's 107 degrees outside. Where are you? Are you in Texas or something? Or Arizona? Man, that is hot. That is hot. It's absurd. Is it like a dry heat, or is it like a humid heat? Humid heats are insane. I'm assuming dry heat. 107 humid heat is honestly insane. That'd be unbearable. But even 107 dry heat is ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, honestly, just going through these weight classes, they're all pretty good. There's a lot of good contenders everywhere. At featherweight, maybe that's one of the weaker weight classes at this point. I mean, you have Volk at the top, but I do think he'll be retiring relatively soon. Outside of him, you have Mosar Evloev, who I think is a legitimate contender. Aaron Pico, legitimate contender. Arnold Allen, legitimate contender. Lerone Murphy's a legitimate contender. I think Aljamain Sterling is also a contender. Yusuf Zalal is a contender. By the way, where has Zalal been? He hasn't fought in a while. I don't know, but I think whenever he does fight, he'll be a contender. Steve Garcia has been looking good as of late. Gene Silva, of course. Honestly, there's a lot of great fighters in all of these weight classes. They just got to put fights together. Honestly, if the UFC decided for one card in of the year just to put together like a ridiculous card, kind of similar to what UFC 300 is, where you have 2 title fights at the top, and all the fights are just legitimate contender fights, like number 1 contender fights. You have like great young up and comers that are ranked fight each other. Fights like that had a lot of meaning. That would be like an insane card. They could do it. There's a lot of guys that are good at this point, and they could match them up against each other. It just seems like a lot of the times they put a matchup together where one side is heavily favored. But what are you gonna do? Tucson, dry heat, but it's raining. Yeah, that's the worst. Humid heat is the worst. But yeah, at least you got a little bit of rain there. But yeah, damn, that sucks. Freaking A. Here is it wasn't that hot. I'm in New York. It's been hot like a lot the last week. It was like 95 every day. I mean, not even close to 107, but still, for here it's pretty hot. But today wasn't that bad. Women's bantamweight's the worst division of all time. Yeah, it is. I mean, going through all the men's weight classes outside of the heavyweight division, I think are all in a pretty good spot. For the women's weight classes, I think they're all in a terrible spot. Yeah, I mean, women's bantamweight is insanely bad. I mean, Juliana Pena is the number 1 contender. Do I have to say any more? But I mean, honestly, none of them are great. There's nobody. Honestly, like, there's really not too many girls that I would say, oh man, that girl's going to be a legitimate contender. She's going to beat Wei Li or whatever. There's really not. I don't know. At least in our weight class, I don't know. So it's the women's weight classes are looking a little bit rough, to say the least. But men's middleweight is maybe the most balanced. All right, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, obviously this list that I have, I'm kind of just looking at the rankings. I'm not seeing unranked guys, and obviously that's a factor as well. And you are right. At the middleweight division, there's good balance. There's pretty good balance between ranked guys that are legitimate contenders, ranked guys that are up and coming, unranked guys that are great fighters, up and coming. There's definitely a lot at that weight class for show. But we shall see. Hey, Juicy, speaking of women, like, I'm gonna be honest. Welcome to stream. I have no idea what that means. Am I out of the loop? I don't know. My bad. But what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say, chat? Fuck. Forgot. Oh yeah. But at flyweight, it's also pretty balanced. In terms of champions, contenders, ranked guys, and unranked guys. There's a lot of really good unranked fighters. Andre Lima and Loner Kavanaugh is coming up pretty soon. Charles Johnson as well. So there's a lot of great fighters. There's a lot of great fighters. Did you guys see the Ben Askren updates? He's looking better. I know he went back to hospital, but I think he's getting a little bit better, so that's good. Hopefully Ben can get well soon. Does Juicy stand out of 10? I'll say white. But what about you? What about you, brother? All divisions are good right now. Just some bad matchmaking. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Some bad matchmaking from the UFC's perspective, and also, yeah. I mean, listen, if guys don't want to fight each other, it is difficult from the UFC's perspective um, to match them up. So I guess it's kind of on the fault of both parties. But listen, going into the fall and going into early next year, there's a lot of really good matchups UFC can put together. So I'm kind of hoping they just figure it out. If guys are just trying to hold their spot and not willing to fight certain fighters, just try to pay them more. I know the UFC usually doesn't do this, but just try to pay them more and see if you can figure it out. Because I do think there's a lot of fun fights to put together. Artem Lova. I did hear that. Where's he fighting, by the way? The PFL, I think he's fighting in. Also, when was the last time he fought? It's got to be years. But yeah. Well, I'll definitely be watching it. Well, if it's a PFL, I'll watch the highlights. Unless it's not the PFL, maybe it's somewhere else. But I went to Chicago once, never. Let's go. Chicago's a verification. Let's go. Let's go. How's Chicago, by the way? It's a nice spot. I heard it's really, really nice in the summer. You go to the city, I'm assuming. I heard it's nice over there. Brock Lesnar's back in WWE and DC. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I care that much. I'm personally not that big of a fan of WWE. I was, but at this point, I'm not really. But I did see that, though, going around on Twitter or X, that Brock is back. But yeah, DC kind of just says shit. doesn't really have much weight. Do you guys hate DC, by the way? I personally don't hate him that much, but I see like going around all the time. Everybody hates DC, which I like. I can kind of see it, but it's just so funny to me. Like everybody hates this guy. But what do you guys think? DC. What was I going to say? By the way, I feel like the UFC should really put together. I know I've said this before, but I think they should put together Rubovich and Michael Chandler. Put it together in MSG. That'd be so great. But we'll see. I hate DC Bisping Roman. Oh my lord, that's just the most obvious shit. It is funny. I saw. I mean, you have a point. The one thing I will say, I think Bisping and Rogan, you have a great point for, and DC for the most part, you do as well. But the one thing that I'll say for DC is he does do a good job of kind of taking you through some grappling sequences, or potential takedown sequences. That's the one thing that I'll give DC credit for. But for the most part, yeah, it's not great. And I saw something on Twitter going around the other month. It was really funny. It's very accurate. Because whenever someone lands a good shot, Joe or Bisping or even DC will be like, "Oh, nice jab" or "nice right straight." Imagine if you're watching football or basketball or something, they're like, "Oh, great touchdown" or "great pass" or "great shot." It's just so funny. Like there's not like too much that they're like giving you. You kind of you don't really need the commentary to understand, because usually what commentary is supposed to do is explain certain things for people who are new to the sport, or even if you're not new to the sport, just explain a couple of things of what they're trying to do out there. But from Rogan and Bisping and DC to an extent, they're all just like, "Oh, nice jab, nice leg kick, nice right hand," which is just kind of funny. But yeah, the commentary is not amazing, definitely not. But for those guys, the one thing that I'll say is they do have a really good when something big happens. But in terms of the commentary, it's not great. I know you're not that high on Hernandez, but who are you picking for this weekend? I think Fluffy's probably going to win. Most likely he's going to win. He's probably in the first round. I could see him being in trouble. We've seen Fluffy in trouble a lot in the first round, but in the end, I mean, Uh, I think he's probably just going to gas out his Delitse. Delitse hasn't shown an amazing gas tank. The thing about Delitse though is he kind of just like he looks very tired in a lot of his fights, honestly, but he just kind of pushes through. He doesn't really give up, so I guess that's something going for him. But probably Hernandez is going to win the fight. The most danger that Delitse will be able to have is early, round 1 and maybe round 2. If he can land a big right hand on Fluffy, or if he can somehow find a submission on Fluffy in the first 2 rounds, that's really where he'll have his success if he is going to at all. But if he's not able to do that, which honestly I don't even think it's super likely he does, but assuming he's not able to do that, I think Fluffy is just going to, starting in round 2, he's going to have a lot of success finding takedowns, scrambling very, very effectively, looking for some submissions, possibly even submitting Delitse at the tail end of the fight. But we'll see. The fact that it's 5 rounds definitely favors Fluffy significantly. Why do people love Gamrot so much? Lay and pray wrestler. Pencil shaving. What's going on, brother? Yeah, I'm not really that big of a fan of Gamrot either, to be honest. I mean, he's a good fighter. In his last fight, he honestly, against Dan Hooker, I don't know if that was his last fight, but when he fought Dan Hooker, he did a much better job at being a little bit more entertaining, where he kind of just decided to strike, but he lost the fight. He's a great grappler. He has great wrestling, great takedowns. The one thing that he doesn't do well, though, is he doesn't have great control. We've seen it a lot. He can take you down, but a lot of his opponents are just able to get right back up relatively easily. So that's his big issue. And it's kind of a sequence of, he's kind of like, not the same, but it's kind of similar to Merab in the sense that he'll take you down, you'll get back up, then he'll take you down again, you'll get back up. But the thing with Merab is he kind of does it in a more entertaining way. Gamrot doesn't really do that. So I'm not personally too, if there's a Gamrot fight, I'm not too excited about it. But in his last fight, he was a lot more exciting. So there's that going for Gamrot. Does he have a fight coming up, Gamrot? Shgamrot? I don't think so, but maybe he does. Maybe he does. I'll always talk about that fight between Jalen Turner and Gamrot. I really thought Jalen Turner won the fight. I know Jalen's not a great fighter, and at this point he retired already, but that was just so weird to me that Turner dropped Gamrot twice in 2 separate rounds and lost both of those rounds, or lost one of those rounds, and he ended up losing the fight. I thought that was so weird. But, yeah, I don't know. Very odd. But if you look back at Gamrot's fight against Arman Tsarukyan, that was fun. That was fun scrambles. And he has some fun fights, but for the most part, I guess it's not great. A dude can get his back taken and be like, oh, that's honestly so true. That's honestly so true. Or if someone gets into full mount, they'll say that. Or I don't know, just something like ridiculously obvious. It is very funny. I do agree with you. There's no real like value that you can really take away from most of these broadcasts when they're talking about the fight. And then honestly, I know a lot of people complain about this as well. Bisping tends to podcast a lot when he's on the broadcast, where he just talks to DC or whoever's on about like random shit that has nothing to do with the fight. Or maybe he's talking about a fighter, but it has nothing to do with the fight, like that's going on right now or right at that point when they're watching. So yeah, it's either like not much value or they're podcasting. I guess Joe kind of does that as well to an extent. But yeah, I know a lot of people are not happy with the commentary. But I don't know. what can you do? Who are your favorite commentators, by the way? Fitzgerald, I'm assuming. Oh, there we go. That answers my question quickly. Cruz, Felder, Brendan Fitzgerald are the best. That's hilarious. But great minds think alike. But yeah, I would probably agree. My favorite Cruz moment, though, is when I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. But it was Conor Khabib, where Khabib was just smashing Conor, and Dominic goes, "Oh, I think Conor's just trying to gas him out." And then Joe's like, "I don't think he's trying to gas him out. I think he's getting smashed." That was an insane take from Dominic Cruz. But outside of that, he's been solid. I know he makes fun of DC for also this actually happened like the other day. I think this previous weekend. I know he makes fun of DC for not doing his homework, but after Tyra was able to win the belt, he was saying that he would like to see Tyra versus Van next for the number one contender fight, and then Bisping was like, "Oh, Van's getting the title shot next," and it seemed like Cruz didn't even know, which is kind of weird, but whatever, that's fine. Fitzgerald is good though, and Felder is solid as well. They all give pretty good value, but it's kind of unfortunate. They're usually just on Apex cards or Fight Night cards. You don't really see them on pay-per-views. Maybe you see Cruz sometimes, maybe Felder occasionally, but Brendan Fitzgerald is just in the Apex. I fucking love Cruz when he bitches around this thing. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Rogan is a staple in the booth. Honestly, I do agree with you, 305. Like, I think, listen, he doesn't give great value, and I know a lot of people say this, and they're right. Joe Rogan is checked out to a certain extent. If you look back at some of his commentary from earlier on, he was giving a lot of value. He was saying exactly what was going on in the grappling sequences, what guys were looking to do. At this point, he doesn't really give you much value, but listen, he's been there forever. He is a staple. He's going to give you the which is usually exciting whenever something big happens. He has some good lines, I guess, but yeah, he is a little checked out. But he is a staple at the same time. He is a staple. Everyone is replaceable except Bruce Buffer. The UFC won't be the same. I actually agree. I know the other guy they have. What's his name? What the fuck's his name? If someone in chat says his name, then I'll be like, oh yeah. But I forgot his name. The guy who does the Apex cards, he's like fine, like he's not bad, but he definitely doesn't compare to Bruce Buffer. Yeah, I agree with you, Joshua. That's one guy you really can't replace. Laura Seiko is awesome. Really expensive grapplers business. I agree with you. Actually, she does. The one thing that I'll say about Joe Martinez, thanks, Joshua. I agree with you. The one thing that I'll say about Laura though is whatever. Say whatever you want about me. But sometimes, like, she does good, but sometimes when there's something big happening and she's like, "Oh, Sean Strickland," when he knocked down Izzy, it's just like, I don't know. It takes it. I don't know. It's just not great for me to say, but it's just hard to take it seriously sometimes. I don't know, but in terms of her actual commentary, like describing things, I agree with you. She does a good job. Question is, why I want to be able to find out? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Joe Martinez. Sorry. Wait, I'm just reading something. 1 second, boys. 1 second. Yeah, all right. Anyways, my bad, boys. Yeah, so Joe Martinez, yeah, he's solid. I like Joe Martinez, pretty good. I agree. He's pretty solid. He does mostly Apex cards, some Fight Night cards in arenas. He's solid. He's not bad. It's just when you're comparing him to Bruce Buffer, it's not really comparable. But he's solid. He's solid. Give a moment to the guy. Yes. Yes. Like, listen, she's good. She is. I agree. That is what I'm saying. I'm kind of like, trying to get through it. I don't know the right term I'm looking for. But yeah, it is sometimes hard to take a little bit seriously when she's like that. I mean, I guess she hasn't really had the opportunity to do it that much, or maybe she hasn't done it that much. But every time I see Sean Strickland fight and they have that thing of, oh, Sean Strickland, it's just like, I don't know. It's just yeah, maybe leave it to a guy in that moment. But she's good though. She does good in other sequences for sure. And she does have a really good understanding of grappling and kind of, as you said, kind of just works everybody through it of what the fighter's looking for, both on top and on the bottom, what they're trying to do to get back up or advance in position, find certain submissions. So she does do a pretty good job at that. But yeah, that's really it, right? There's no other commentators that I'm forgetting about. There definitely are good commentators, and honestly, probably they could find some other guys. I know Dustin Poirier, I think, is is going to be a commentator as well. Um, so we'll see how he does. Or I don't know, is he going to be a commentator or is he just going to be like on the post show like Chael Sonnen is? I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but if he is a commentator, I'm sure they'll bring him along slowly. I do think he could do well, but probably he'll be doing Apex cards initially, and if he gets good, maybe he can do some pay per views. We'll see. We'll see. But it's a little bit too early at this point to even know. Yeah. It's not normal to pressure your opponent when you're down. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You are right. It is odd. Yeah, Luke Rockhold's shin was never great, and it did take a while for guys to find out. But when they found out, that guy was, he got knocked out a lot. He's fighting soon though. He's fighting Darren Till, I believe, on the Tony Ferguson versus Salt Poppy card. As weird as that sounds, but he's fighting on the main event. I think Darren Till is doing an amazing job at this point at just having success, just because, listen, he's fighting on a card versus guys who kind of, like, if we're being honest, they kind of suck, or they're not really on his level, at least in terms of his boxing. He's fighting a lot of guys who's way better than, he's getting paid a decent amount. He's usually the main event of these cards, and he's making money. So I think Darren Till is honestly doing a pretty good thing for himself. So good for him. But we'll see how Luke Rockhold does. That one. Ryan, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. You had dinner yet? No, I didn't. Usually I kind of wait for after these streams to eat. Get a little bit hungry, but talking to the boys, I can't hop off yet. But I'll eat. What do we got here? What do we got, fellas? What'd you have for lunch? What did I have for lunch? I had Chinese food. Not the healthiest, but that's what I had. Anik Felder Cruise pay-per-view would be the best. Ooh, that would be nice. That would be good. Yeah, Anik's great. He does give good feedback, and he's good. And Felder and Dominic Cruz are good as well. So yeah, that'd be good. That'll be fun. I had Chipotle. Oh, that's good. I haven't had Chipotle in forever, bro. Have you seen the quality of Chipotle going down? Maybe it's just like the one store that I go to, but I used to love Chipotle and I still do. But I do feel like the quality of the food has really gone down. I don't know. Have you noticed that? Fitzy just makes moments. Lord Silva shines here. Yeah. He does have those moments a lot. Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm honestly really excited. I know the card itself sucks, but I'm really excited for that main event on UFC Noche. It's gonna be good. I think Gene puts him out. I really think Gene puts Diego Lopez out. I know Lopez has an amazing chin, but I think Gene eventually gets to him. He hits too hard and he's too technical. But we'll see. Who's the do we know the commentators for this weekend, by the way? It's probably too early. Or not this weekend. I meant for UFC 319. It's probably too early, right? Anik has good one-liners. Yeah. The custody battle is a good one. No, but in all honesty, he does have really good lines. Anik's definitely really good. No complaints about him. No, I'm in San Diego, dude. You get the best Chipotle in the world. Wow, or in the whole country. Wow, that's pretty far. Let's go, brother. Dude, I want to go to San Diego. Bad, bro. Bad. It looks so nice. I haven't been there. Say hello to a real contender was the fucking best. Oh yeah. Oh yes. There's great lines. Show DC Anik. Oh, for 319. Yeah, I'm not surprised. First time in Chicago in forever. We'll see how the crowd looks. I'm assuming the crowd's going to be pretty good. Card's going to be great. So I'm excited. It's so unfortunate though, because literally on the day of 319, I'm actually going on vacation. I really wanted to do a watch along for that card, but I'm going away on that day. So, but I'll still be watching it. I'll update you boys on X. I'll do my little updates. Um, but yeah, Holloway will never win the lightweight champion. Yeah, first of all, MB, welcome to the stream, brother. I mean, things are really going to need to go his way, I think, for him to win the lightweight belt. I do think there's a lot of guys he could beat. Like, I think he could beat Charles Oliveira. Let's go through the weight class. I do think he could beat Charles Oliveira. I think he could beat he already beat Gaethje. I think he could beat Dan Hooker. Gamrot he could beat. Dariush he could beat. There's a lot of guys he could beat. Even Paddy Pimblett, I think Max could beat. The thing is, he's probably not going to fight Topuria unless he gets a bunch of wins. But also Topuria is going to move on from the weight class anyway. But I think he has a rough time with Topuria, even at lightweight. Against Arman Tsarukyan, I think that's a tough fight for Max as well. And most likely, Topuria is a champion right now. And if Topuria moves on to a different division, honestly, I would say most likely Arman is going to be the champ of that weight class. So honestly, tough fights for Max at the top. But with that being said, I think he is a better fighter at 155 at this point, and he still has a lot of guys that he could beat. He's he's fighting very well, but yeah, it'll be tough. Things really need to go his way to become a champion of the lightweight division. As soon as that is pretty funny, actually. They're like, all right, it makes sense now. That is kind of funny. Thank you for streaming, brother. Thanks for being here, 305. Appreciate it. Topuria versus Holloway was such a good and competitive fight. You should rewatch it. Oh, dude, I rewatch it all the time. I just watched it like a week ago or something, week and a half ago. It was amazing. It's a great fight. I think Holloway was Topuria's toughest test up until this point. He was fighting the perfect fight. Max was. He was keeping his range, throwing a lot of head kicks, a lot of kicks in general, and kind of staying out of the way of a lot of the big shots, at least early. Eventually, Topuria just landed, but I thought he fought the right game plan. The fact that he lost to Topuria kind of just shows to me that Topuria is that good, as opposed to Max making any technical errors or anything like that. Topuria just cut off the cage, landed a big right hand, and then landed a big left hook that finished Max. He's just that good. But in terms of the game plan and the way that Max fought, I thought he fought the perfect fight personally. Super competitive. At 155, I know a lot of people make the argument that it'll be closer because Max will be more filled out. His power will be more significant, which is true. And I think at 155, it's a tougher fight for Ilia as compared to at 145. I do agree. But at the end of the day, I just think Ilia kind of has Max's number. I think he'll be able to beat him again at 155, even if they do fight. But as I said, I don't think it's very likely that they will. I think Topuria beats one guy and moves up to 170. Max only loses to Arman and Ilia, beats everybody else. I agree with you. I do agree with you. I just think, obviously Topuria is the champ right now, and I think if Topuria moved on, I think Arman would be the champ. So probably for Max to become the champion, he'll have to fight either one of those guys, and I think those are tough fights for him. Listen, Charles Oliveira could beat Max. Dan Hooker could beat Max. I just would favor Max in those matchups. I think he'll do well. What do you think of O'Malley's confidence post the Round rematch? I think it's lower for sure. I think it'll definitely be lower. Going into that fight, he thought he could, stop, doing certain things and it'll make a big improvement. Obviously, it didn't turn out to be like that. So I think it'll be lower. We'll see how he compares against some other guys. Listen, he did fight Peter Yan, and although a lot of people thought Yan won the fight, I think it's legitimate. I think Yan has a good case that he won that fight against O'Malley. O'Malley has shown in the past against top-level competition that he could have success. So I don't think he's done or anything. I still think he could have success against some other top-level guys. It just, he's probably never going to fight Merab again. Or even if he did, I think Merab's a really tough fight for him. I think Umar could be a tough fight for him. But outside of those two, maybe there's some matchups he could have success in. But yeah, I think his confidence level is probably not great at this point. Topuria also KO'd Max with the worst gloves. That's another good point. Yeah. I actually think that was a contributing factor to why the UFC was so bad last year and part of this year. Those gloves were terrible. There was just not a lot of finishes, but luckily the UFC decided to go back to the regular gloves. But yeah, the fact that Topuria knocked him out, knocked him out with those gloves. Actually, in your profile pick, those gloves. That's probably the max fight. Your profile pick, I'm assuming, was that much more impressive. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Magomedov and Goliath will win again. I think most likely. I think Pereira will make adjustments. He'll probably be a little bit more aggressive, more forward. When Alex has success is when he's on the front foot. And when you watch back that fight against him and Magomed, he was on the back foot the entirety of the fight. Obviously, Alex does have good skill in the feet. He can find finishes even if he's on the back foot. But for the most part, against a talented striker like Magomed, you have to be on the front foot. So I think Alex will make adjustments, but at the end of the day, I do agree with you. I think Magomed is most likely going to win. Alex Pereira 2 against Yuri in the second round of last second of round 1. Yeah. And then also he finished him off with the head kick. But yeah, that left hook really set it up well for Alex. Listen, the gloves definitely had an effect for sure. But if you have like unreal power, like Pereira or like Ilia Topuria, maybe it'll affect it a little bit, but they have great power. So it is what it is. Y'all forgot to thank John Jones for the removal of the gloves. I guess that's one good thing that he did. It is kind of funny how a lot of people were complaining about the gloves, but the UFC wasn't really doing anything. And if you looked at the results, as we're talking about now, there's a lot less KOs and a lot more cuts on guys' faces. But ever since John was like, I hate these gloves, the UFC's like, all right, we'll get rid of it. So I guess that's a good thing that John did for the sport. Duck. Yeah, he was a duck. This is the year of the ducks. Yeah, we got John. Are you saying Topuria's ducking Arman? Is that what you're saying? I personally don't think he's ducking him, but we'll see. We'll see. Who else? Who else is ducking? Am I forgetting somebody? I don't know. There's probably more examples. I just can't think of it. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Thoughts on that one? Ace. What the fuck? Oh man, I'm not. I don't know about that, but I'm not happy about that. That's not great. Not my taste. I'll say that much. But welcome to the stream. What's the fight you're looking forward to that makes that no one else is talking about? What is a fight that I'm looking forward to that no one's? You mean like a fight that's already announced? Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I'll just give you fights that I'm really looking forward to, and I don't know if guys are looking forward to it or not. I would say Gene Silva and Diego Lopez is one that's really exciting. I would say the BSD fight is going to be really exciting versus Rufi. That's one I'm really looking forward to. Maybe, honestly, this might be it. I don't think this is getting that much attention. I'm really looking forward to Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega. It's not going to get the most attention in the world. I know they're both, Aljamain Sterling is mostly a grappler, and Ortega does his best work on the ground. So maybe guys aren't that excited for the fight, but I personally am pretty excited for it. So maybe that's the answer. I think the Umar Batista fight could be fun. Rakic versus Moisakanev, that's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. There's definitely a lot of fights that I'm personally looking forward to coming up soon. So yeah. Ivloev maxing. Ivloev. You mean Volk is avoiding Ivloev? Or Ivloev is, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Or Max avoiding Ivloev. Or the other way around. Joshua Van. I'm really high on Van as well. I do think that this is probably the toughest test of Pantoja's title reign thus far. I know he had a close fight against Urseg, and I know he had a really close fight against Moreno. But I do think Van has a good ability to stop takedowns, which I think will be very effective. And on the feet, his countering is just really, really effective. So I do think he'll have a lot of success on the feet. It's just the thing is, if Pantoja can find a takedown, which will be difficult, but if he could find a takedown, that'll probably be bad news for Van. But listen, I agree with you. I'm very, very high on Van. We'll see how he does, though, and we'll see when they make the fight. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be in November. I'm hoping it is on the New York card. ACA is in sanction. I think the gangster X-Con's fine. Oh man, yeah, ridiculous. But that 15-year-old that's insane. Yeah, already announced. Let's go. Actually, I don't even know what you're talking about, to be honest. Oh yeah, okay, never mind. Yeah, I got you, John. But yeah, some of those fights that I was saying. Maybe my final answer will be Aljo and Brian Ortega. Bilal would flatline KO Leon. He didn't have to wear the new gloves. Would he? Maybe. I mean, he would win, but will he flatline KO? Probably not, honestly. But he would win. Joshua Van will become a 3-division. That'll be tough. I'm very high on Van. He'll be good, but he's legitimately small for 125. So him moving up to 135, he'll be really undersized. And Joshua Van at 145, holy shit, he'd be like very undersized. I'm not saying he can't have success at 135, but he'll be very undersized. But he's already undersized at 125, so he's still having success. So we'll see how Van does. But I'm really high on him. Have you ever watched Money Mass? Dude, what is going on, by the way, with that whole thing? Is it like an embedded or the Ultimate Fighter sort of thing, where Mighty Mouse is just training these guys? I don't even know. I just saw some clips going around, but I don't actually know what's going on there. But I saw, I don't know that guy's name, but I saw some guy was trying to piss off Mighty Mouse, and he got head kicked. I saw that clip, and I saw Death Sentence's fight against some YouTuber where he literally had the choke in, but he was choking him like this. So he had his arm under, and his other arm was like this. What the fuck is that? So I don't know. I don't really know what's going on over there. They don't really have a great understanding of what they're doing, but I guess it's just social media and they're trying to earn a following or whatever. But yeah, I was watching. So I was watching the Death Sentence fight. It kind of just came up, and I was like, whatever, I'll watch it. So I was watching that fight against that YouTuber, and then at the end of it, I see Mighty Mouse walk in. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then I saw more clips of him training Death Sentence. I don't know if it was before or after the fight, whatever. But that was weird. Thoughts on Ortega versus Eagle Connection? I don't know. There's an Eagle Connection with Khabib, you're saying? Or I don't know. I'm lost. I'm sorry. Moicano's dumber than a boxer. Rick Allen, let's go, brother. Welcome back. Moicano's dumber than a boxer rocks. Listening to his yeah, he's not great. He's very big into Bitcoin though. What is your favorite submission? What is my favorite submission? Maybe Darce, maybe Darce and armbar, maybe one of those. Maybe a Volter Walker leg lock, but no, probably Darce or armbar. I remember I was about to rage when they announced the decision to Moreno. I thought Pantoja clearly won. Where's Gordon? Yeah, well, yeah. It was, yeah. I mean, listen. Obviously, both guys had success, but it was interesting. I remember it was obviously it was a split. That was so long ago. I actually haven't watched that fight in forever. That's an amazing fight to watch back. If you guys haven't seen that fight, Pantoja and Moreno, 2 or 3 actually, right? It was the third fight. They fought once in Contender. That was a great fight though overall. But yeah, Pantoja got it and hasn't looked back since. He's been on a tear. I hate to be that guy, but man. Yeah, that's probably true. It's probably true. Not the best looking guy, and honestly, not the best, not the nicest guy either. Joshua Fan would become a 4-division champ. All right, he's moving up. He'll be the heavyweight champ by the end of the year. Fuck it, he's that good. Imagine Van in there versus Tom Aspinall. Van's just too fast for Tom. Tom just can't find him. Van lands a beautiful counter right hand, knocks out Tom Aspinall, becomes 6th division weight champ or however many weight classes there are. That would be insane, bro. Scenes. Can you do a Topuria impression? I suck. I suck at impressions. Topuria, I don't know. What's something Topuria would say? No, I suck. I don't even know. I don't even know. I'll give you a counter impression of Topuria, or not impression, but.
How do you think you would beat Ilia at Toronto?
It's not working, bro. Oh wait, I don't know if you guys heard. Did you guys hear that sound? I gotta wait. Let me adjust this. We could do that, and we'll do this. Here's the sound.
How do you think you would beat Ilia at Toronto?
Rick Allen, let's go, John. John knows what's up. Ortega's Eagle. Oh. Okay, actually, I do know what you're talking about. Very interesting when he was talking about how he's like reborn or whatever he said going into his last fight. Was that the fight against Diego Lopez? It was, right? I think it was that one. Good for him. I don't know. When kind of turned down the UFC settlement, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. Probably what he was thinking. I mean, it's probably not the smartest decision in the world, but I'm assuming what he was thinking is he wants to get in the good side of Dana so he can get more money fights, or just get on his good side to have more opportunities. I guess I don't know. That's probably why he did it, but he's probably the only guy that didn't accept that. He also made so many things. He should just shut up. There's your Topuria impression. That wasn't that good, but you should just shut up because it doesn't. Yeah. Rick Allen's a fan of Moicano. I heard it. Let's go, John. Who do you think Volkanovski should fight next? It's going to be the winner of Pico and Lerone Murphy. That's what it's going to be. Who do I think is going to win that fight? I think Pico's going to win. I think it's good stylistically, but we'll see. I know people are going back and forth on that one, and if Lerone wins, I wouldn't be shocked. He's very skilled, but it'll be the winner of that. That's what I think. You should go live for the Apex this week. Last week. Yeah, I will. Actually, I am going to. This weekend, for everybody here, if you're interested, I will be doing a watch-along for the Apex card this weekend. I'll do the entire card. I know it's not amazing, but join the live stream. We'll talk about fights. We'll react to some fights. Hopefully, we get some good fights. As I said, on paper, fights could definitely be better. On paper, they're not great, but in person or in reality, it could be fun. So I'll be doing a watch-along this weekend for the entire card, so be sure to join for that. And then also we have the Dana White Contender Series the Tuesday following, and I will be doing a watch party for that one as well. So we'll get back to our watch parties. Bro, do you have any actual opinions, or do you just hatch everything? Well, I mean, I have a lot of videos making opinions. I've been getting killed because I thought Telson Teixeira would beat Derek Lewis, but what is the UFC's statement money? What is the UFC's statement money? Like 300 mil, homie. So Rick says, I'll go with it. But yeah. What else? We got good stuff coming up though. How about this? Mofsar and Volk are absolute. That'd be kind of funny. That would be hilarious because Mofsar is obviously getting blackballed like for a while. He probably should have got a title shot a while ago. So it'd be funny if finally he gets his number one contender fight. He was already the number one contender, but finally he gets the fight that if he wins, he'll get a title shot. He pulls out, and then the UFC is like, all right, we'll just give you the shot anyway. That would be hilarious. Honestly, it would be cinema. But most likely it's not that's not what's happening. It's probably just going to be the winner of Pico and Lerone. But that'd be funny. Honestly, I think in terms of like the fight itself, which fight would honestly be the most interesting, I do think it would probably be Mofsar and what's his face? Mofsar and Volk, but we'll see. To be fair, they should have never booked the Pico fight. Yeah. I agree with you. I think Mofsar probably should have got the title shot a while ago, maybe even before the Aljamain fight. Probably before the Aljamain fight. But he beat Aljo, and then he was supposed to fight again after that before he can get a title shot. I don't know. Yeah, they definitely blackballed him. At this point, I really think he's going to be left in the dark, though, because let's say Pico wins or Lerone wins, doesn't really matter. They'll fight for the belt, and if they win or lose, it doesn't really matter. Now Movsar is going to have to fight again before he gets a title shot, and yeah, he's going to have to wait a while before he gets a title shot. But, yeah. What is UFC? Oh, settlement money. The UFC settlement money is there were some. Well, Rick says it was 300 mil, so I'm assuming that's the accurate number. But there was a settlement where the UFC was essentially found to be underpaying fighters, so they were forced to pay out a lot of these fighters a certain amount of money. I don't know; it's obviously different for all the fighters, but they were forced to pay them a certain amount of money, and Moicano decided to decline that settlement money. Probably because he wants to be in the good graces of Dana and get more money fights or whatever he's thinking about. But that's what happened. I believe this happened like a month ago, or it wasn't that long ago. I don't remember exactly when, but it was a little bit ago. Movsar versus Gene Diego Lopez rematch is a good alternative for Movsar. Probably December next year. Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that. It probably makes the most sense, but I really do think if Gene beats Diego Lopez, he's going to want a title shot, and I think the UFC is going to give it to him. I mean, Lopez is what is Lopez in the rankings? Lopez is he's number 2. Yes, and Gene Silva is a really exciting fighter and an up and coming star. So if Gene beats Lopez, who's the number 2 guy right now, I think they're going to give him the title shot next. Personally, but well, as I said, how it's going to go is it's going to be Pico and Lerone will get the next title shot, and then whoever wins that fight will get Gene Silva, who I think will beat Diego Lopez. I do think he'll beat him. He's just too technical and he's too physical. But theoretically, if they did Gene versus Movsar, I mean, it does make sense because Movsar is the number 1 contender. I just think Gene's getting the title shot if he beats Lopez, which I think he is. Rate this week's poster between Delitse and Hernandez. Let's see the poster. Let's see the poster. The fuck's the poster? All right, poster. Oh, here we go. It's pretty cool. It's not bad. I don't mind it. The card itself is not great on paper, but the poster's good. I think Volk's next fight is his retirement fight. He's been talking about his family. I agree with you. I hope it is, and I think it will be. And also, I agree with you. He said on an interview that his comeback story was great, where he lost the belt and he was able to get the belt back, but he doesn't want to do that again. So I honestly do think, win or loss, he'll retire next. He's getting older at this point. And it does seem like there are certain thoughts in his head about potential retiring. And Dana says this all the time, and he's right. If you're thinking about retiring, you probably should. So probably his next fight will be his last fight. We'll see who it is against. I'm hoping for his sake he wins, and then he retires from there. Dana's probably not going to be thrilled about it because they notoriously hate guys that are the champion and they decide to retire. There's been a few examples of that, and Dana always hates it. So, I mean, Volk has been a great champion, and I'm sure Dana loves Volk, but I kind of feel like he may be rooting for him to lose if his next fight is his retirement fight. Volk is still the featherweight GOAT. Yeah, I agree. He is. Beating Max Holloway 3 separate times, getting all those victories, being a champ for so long. Yes, he got knocked out by Topuria, but Topuria was a lot younger, and he also was just that good. So I do agree with you. I think he's a featherweight GOAT. Featherweight GOAT. But yeah. Honestly, it is so weird though, because the sport is so new that if a guy gets like 2 or maybe 3 title defenses, all of a sudden they're considered to be the GOAT of their weight class. I'm not saying they don't deserve it; they definitely do. But it's just kind of funny to see that kind of thing, and it kind of just shows you how new the sport is. At least the UFC, how new they've been they've had like legitimate contenders or legitimate fighters. Who really won the Strickland or Jared? Watching it live, I really thought that Strickland won the fight. I thought it was a ridiculous decision, but actually, I didn't watch it back. But one of my boys that watched it back a few times said that he can see an argument for Jared Cannonier. It was a close fight. I personally thought Strickland won, though. I thought he was kind of just doing the better work, but they gave it to Cannonier. So what are you gonna do? Jose Aldo has the time no one's talking about. Holy Robert. Yeah, that was insane. The Jose Aldo fight was honestly insane because, for one, I thought it was a very winnable fight for him, which it appeared to be. Then in the third round where he essentially finished, he essentially got the finish. Then he threw a soccer kick as his opponent was down. I actually don't remember who he fought. Who did he fight? Whoever it was in Canada. And then all of a sudden he looks up at the clock and there's like 3 minutes left and he's so gassed. It was so weird, bro. It was so weird. It should have been a 10-8 round or even a finish for Aldo. And I think he ended up losing the round. Amin Zahabi. Yeah, you're right. Or Amin Zahabi. Yeah. Which is so weird. So the fight itself was weird and it was unfortunate that he got got robbed. But yeah. If Volk would have won the decision versus on the first fight, that would be interesting. Where would his career be now? Well, if he beat Islam, would Islam get an immediate rematch against Volk? Honestly, probably not. Probably not. So then Volk would probably, honestly, even if Volk beat, even if he beat Islam the first time, he probably would still move back down. At that point, he was still wanting to be very active at 2 weight classes. So I think he still would have moved down and he still would have fought Yair Rodriguez. I think the result would have been the same, maybe even an earlier finish for Volk. And then at 155, if it wasn't Islam, who would he fight? Charles Oliveira? Honestly, he could be Charles. A prime Volk could definitely be Charles. I don't know, dude. He might be considered as one of the, I mean, he's already considered as one of the GOATs, but maybe higher on the list. Interesting. Really interesting. Immen's hobby, yeah. Aldo didn't get robbed. Yeah, I don't know. I personally think Aldo won the fight, but I guess it was interesting. I mean, he got the third round was ridiculous. From almost finding a finish to almost getting finished. Not because he was hurt, but because he was so gassed. It was just such a weird turnaround in that third round. But I think Aldo still did the more damage in that third round, so I think he should have won it. And I think round 1 he won, I believe. So I think he won the fight, but I guess sad for yeah. Who was Aldo's fight before that? Was it Batista? Let's see. I think it was Batista, right? Or was it somebody else? Yeah, it was Batista. Losing a split decision there, and then a unanimous decision versus Sahabi, which I thought was weird. But yeah. Aldo spent the whole round on his back trying to get. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you are right, but as I always say, damage trumps all. And yes, I mean, listen, Zahabi was landing damage at the end of that third round, but there was a decent portion where he was kind of just had top control and he wasn't landing that much. But the end of the round, I agree with you. He was landing damage, but the more damage was Jose Aldo. I mean, he was very close to finding a finish. I'm surprised he didn't. He hurt Zahabi bad. He dropped him, of course, and was able to land a couple follow-up shots after that. So listen, maybe I got to watch the fight back. You might be right, pencil shavings, but I personally thought Aldo won. And I think the third round was the swing round. And I think if you hurt someone that bad and drop them, I think it's really tough to lose that round. But I guess I'll watch it back. Probably not anytime soon, but eventually I'll watch it back. What else we got? We got anything new here? Let's see, fellas. Yeah, no real news here. No real news. Cyril Gahn or Tom Aspinall? Tom. I think Tom is honestly just going to John Jones Cyril Gahn personally. I think he takes him down within the first 2 rounds and finds a submission. If the fight's on the feet, Gahn can have success, but I think the grappling advantage is just too big for Tom. And yes, Gahn has had some time to work on his game. Oh shit, this thing's gonna die. One second. There we go. But yes, Cyril Gahn has had some time to improve after his John Jones fight in terms of his grappling, takedown defense, and submission defense on the ground. But still, I just think the gap between the two is significant. That Gahn is not going to be able to make up time in that regard. If Tom decides just to strike, then maybe he can have success. Gahn can, but we'll see. I can imagine Cyril Gahn survives 25 minutes and wins a split decision. Or that'd be insane. I don't know. Listen, the one thing that I will say about the fight is if Cyril is able to survive past 2 rounds, it will be something new for Tom, as he's essentially finishing everybody within the first 2 rounds. And who knows, maybe his gas tank isn't that great. As I said, he's finishing everybody very early. So that's kind of the only way I think Gahn can win the fight. But I just don't really think that's super likely. I really do think Tom just takes him down and submits him. So that's kind of what I think, but we'll see. Tom actually destroys Cyril Gahn. KO or sub guarantee round 1. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. TKO would be harder, but it could be done. But probably the easiest path to victory for Tom will just be a submission. So I think he'll do that. Cyril Gahn is yeah. Well, I mean, you're right. It did in his last fight versus Volkov. I thought Volkov should have won the fight, but maybe because Cyril Gahn is shredded at heavyweight, the judges were like, all right, we'll give it to him. But we'll see. Tom should win. A lot of pressure on him. Yeah, there's pressure, but I think he'll still win. If he does win, I talked about this already before, but if he does beat Gahn, who's really next? Maybe Jailton Almeida. Even then, I think Tom beats him. If Tom beats Cyril Gahn and Jailton Almeida, then we have a problem. Like, legitimately, who would be next after that? It's there's really no contenders. What I've been saying, we haven't seen Tom tested at all after the first round. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's legitimate. We'll see how his cardio holds up for after the first round or after the second round. But I just think Gahn is going to have trouble stopping takedowns and stopping a submission attempt. How do we know Tom doesn't give up like a year after first adversity? Yeah, I guess we don't know. Listen, you don't know what you don't know. So maybe it's possible. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say probably not. But you don't know what you don't know. So we'll see. People talk about Hamza being the scariest fighter round 1. They're fighting about Tom. That's a fair point. I personally think, listen, it's a fair point, but I think the best fighter of all time, round 1 of all time, is Khamzat Chimaev. I do think that. Tom is probably close, honestly, on that list, and I do agree with you. He's great in round 1. Essentially, all of his finishes are in the first round. But I do think Khamzat is a little bit different in the first round. I honestly think Gahn versus Volkov 2 was a draw. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a close fight. I personally thought Volkov should have won the fight. But yeah, I mean, if it should have been Volkov winning or a draw, but I think Volkov should have won. But it's unfortunate because Volkov is now fighting against a pretty good fighter, probably the best fighter at heavyweight outside of Gahn and Tom. And obviously Cyril Gahn is fighting for the belt. So it's kind of unfortunate, but it just is what it is. Waldo Cortez Acosta as Tom's kryptonite. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's hilarious. It's actually hilarious how much I dislike Waldo Cortez Acosta. I really think he's not good at all. I think he's just getting away with, getting away with a lot of these wins because he hits relatively hard and he's athletic. But outside of that, I really don't think he does many things well. I mean, he's beat Rebelis to Spain out of all people by taking him down, and then we realized that Rebelis to Spain just cannot stop a takedown. So I'm really not high on him at all. Somehow he's number 6 in the rankings. They're giving him Sergey Pavlovich next. If he beats Sergey Pavlovich, I don't know what I'm watching. Not that Sergey is that good, but he's better than Waldo on the feet. And I do kind of feel like this is setting up for a Sergey Pavlovich round 1 KO sort of scenario. But I guess Waldo could just wrestle maybe and look to pull it off. That would be not a great day for me. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. What do you think would happen if Prime GSP and Prime Khabib fight? Ooh. That'll be an interesting fight. Honestly, I kind of lean Khabib. I actually do. Very close fight though. Tough to say. I think Khabib though. Pound for pound, Hamzat Mal's Tom. Pound for pound, I agree with you. Yeah, but I agree with you. But that can be said about any weight class. Pound for pound, Joshua Van or Pantoja, probably Mal's most guys. The smaller you are, the more technical you're going to be, more skilled you're going to be. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But I do agree with you. Hamzat Wood Mal Tom, pound for pound, or at size parity, whatever. People forget about the blob because yeah, Hamzat asshole. Yeah, that I agree with. That you have a good point. Shamil, honestly, if Shamil really wanted to, and he somehow was able to cut weight to 125, he'll have success there as well. Even if he wanted to fight a guy who's like 780 pounds, if that was even theoretically possible, Gaziv would kind of just throw him around and eventually knock him out. So Gaziv, you have a point with. He has a lot of success. He would have a lot of success versus everybody. Shamil Galam, yeah, that'll. Dude, honestly, put that fight in the UK, and the fans will be disappointed, but at least Shamil will be able to earn a lot more fans that night, and is what it is. That's a contender that I'm looking forward to, Shamil for show.
I want to oil you up. What the fuck does that mean?
We should oil up Gaziev, whatever. Oh man, the Gaziv memes are tremendous. They really are tremendous. What do you guys think, though? In all honesty, with Gaziv, do you think there's anybody at that heavyweight weight class that he can beat that's ahead of him? He's number 11 right now. Could he beat Taito Ivasa? Yes. Could he beat Derek Lewis? Derek Lewis versus Shamil Gaziev. In all honesty, who do you guys think would win that? I don't know. Probably lean Derek Lewis. What about Sergey Spivak versus Shamil? Who wins that? Maybe Shamil could win that. Or Tybura versus Shamil. I think Shamil could win that, actually. What about? Oh man, this is the fight of the generation. Waldo Cortez Acosta against Shamil Gaziev. Who wins that one? They cut Rosenstrike because he robbed Gaziv. That is 100% accurate as well. Yeah, it was a little bit of a payback. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. How do you rob that kid? Kuziev and Curtis Blades are having a rematch in 3. Are they actually? No way. They're having a rematch at 320. I know the fight was close, but that's insane. They try to rebook that fight 29 times. Finally, they get it. It turns out to be a terrible fight because I think Blades pulled his tore his ACL or MCL, whatever it was, and now they want to rebook it. No way. That'd be hilarious if they rebook it again. It's just one fight they just can't get over. They'll just keep rebooking it. That'd be hilarious. I don't know. Is that real? I feel like it's not. But brother, appreciate you consistent streaming. Thanks for being here consistently through a 5, and everybody else for that matter. It's been fun. I'm just trying to grow this YouTube channel, posting as much as I can. There's a video that came out today about Antiba. He's one of my favorite guys at this point, honestly. In terms of prospects, he's one of my favorite guys to watch fight. So that video is out. Post another video on Wednesday and Friday, and essentially we stream every day. So it's been fun. It's definitely been fun, and I appreciate everybody for being here, asking questions, being in chat. It's been great. Honestly, I didn't even start streaming that long ago. It's been like a month at this point, maybe a little bit over a month. And when we were first starting to stream, there weren't too many people here. But at this point, we're growing, getting more people, and I appreciate everybody for being here. Kuzniev is a roid cheat. That's why. Yeah. Honestly, probably a lot of guys are, but you probably have a point. Which guys do you think are not on roids in the UFC? There's not many guys, I don't think, but what do you guys think? The only guys that I can think of off the top of my head are Colby Covington and who else? Maybe just Colby. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. But a lot of guys are on roids. Jerry, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. UFC 310 new. What's your take on the main? Probably I don't know. It's tough. I mean, the first round is going to determine anything. I talked about this before, but Khamzat's the best fighter in the first round in the UFC right now and probably ever. But the one thing that I will say about Khamzat is if you can make it out of the first round, you have a real chance of winning the fight. Kamaru Usman maybe could have won that fight if it was 5 rounds, as well as some other fighters as well. And this is how I see the fight going, though. I think round 1, Khamzat is going to dominate DDP. I think he's going to take him down, put him in bad situations, threaten a lot of submissions. But at the end of the day, I think DDP is going to be able to survive round 1. And round 2, I think Khamzat will win as well. I think he'll have success. But once again, I think DDP will survive. And starting round 3, I think the tides will turn. I think DDP will start to push pressure Khamzat a lot. Khamzat will start to gas out a little bit. And I honestly think DDP is going to win the fight. I know I would assume most people are leaning with Khamzat, but I honestly do see a real path to victory for DDP. And it's, due to Khamzat gassing. If Khamzat doesn't gas, then it's a huge problem for DDP, but we kind of just seen him gas a lot in fights. So that's kind of how I see it. But the first round will determine the fight, I think. If Khamzat dominates round 1, 10-8, if you're a betting man, if Khamzat dominates round 1, 10-8 round, and DDP is a bigger underdog than what he is pre-fight, I'd probably take that personally. Depends what the number is, but we'll see. Rivian posted on his Instagram. All right. If that's a fight, I don't know. That's ridiculous. They're really trying to make this fight a million times, and the fight was terrible. So I mean, I believe you, but it's just a weird fight to put together again. I see Colby calling out Magny. Yeah, I mean, both those guys are probably not on roids, by the way, about my previous roid conversation. Sure. Neil Magny versus Colby Covington. What a world. Magny's coming off a good win, though. Could Neil Magny beat Colby? Maybe. We'll see. I can't believe DDP's the dog, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I could believe it. I mean, Khamzat has been super dominant, so I was expecting him to be the favorite. But as I said, I do think there is a real path to victory. And if I had to guess, I have a video out about this already on my channel, breaking this down in depth. But if I had to say, I honestly would be leaning with DDP this one. I know he has all the jokes about plot armor or whatever, but which actually are true. But in all fairness, or in all seriousness, I think the gas tank differences between the two guys are going to play a huge factor in this fight. And I think DDP is just going to start to pull away as the fight does progress. So, yeah, I'll definitely be taking DDP. I'll take the value. And we'll see what happens in the fight. I could certainly be very wrong. Maybe Khamzat just submits him round 1 early, which is possible. But I personally think DDP is going to win. Who do you got? Delizia versus Hernandez. I'm leaning towards Hernandez. I agree. I think Fluffy's going to win. I think there are paths to victory for Roman. Fluffy does get hurt a lot in the first round. I think in his last 2 fights, he got hurt in the first round to the body. So if Delizia throws a couple body kicks or a couple right hands to the body, maybe he can have a success and maybe can find a finish in the first round. But I'm leaning with Fluffy as well. I think he's just going to outpace Roman. I think he's just going to gas him out once we get to round 3. But if Roman wants to have any sort of success, he's going to need to find a finish within the first 2 rounds. He's just not really put together that much. Like his game, like he has great power and he has great jiu-jitsu, but in terms of his power, his technical ability is not really there. So it's very difficult for him to land big shots. And on the ground, he just refuses to wrestle. I mean, I don't know if his wrestling's good or not. We really don't see it. The only time you see Roman Dolidze on the ground is if his opponent takes him down. He never offensively wrestles. So he's not really even able to utilize his jiu-jitsu either. So he has like 2 great abilities, but he's not able to utilize either one of those abilities to their fullest extent. But yeah, how I see the fight, final prediction, I'll go Fluffy via decision. He'll probably gas out Roman starting round 3. A lot of takedowns, a lot of scrambles, and he'll just win the fight. Probably that's how it goes. Hernandez by first round submission. That I'd be shocked about. That I'll be shocked about. I know Fluffy's good, but I personally think Roman has great jiu-jitsu. And I personally think, at least in the first 2 rounds, he'll be able to stop submissions and maybe threaten his own. But we'll see. How do you see Khalil versus Yuri? Honestly, I'm really going back and forth on this one. It's a really difficult one for me. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's a really difficult one for me. I really think whoever lands first is probably going to win the fight. For Yuri, he's certainly going to be pressuring a lot in this fight, and he's very dangerous if he's able to back you up alongside the cage. So there definitely are a lot of things for Khalil Roundtree to worry about. But at the same time, Khalil does have good power, and he's also pretty technical. So I could also see him landing a big shot. Really close fight to me. I was leaning Yuri earlier when the fight got announced, but honestly, the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to lean with Khalil a little bit. But I haven't made my official prediction. I'll make an in-depth video, relatively soon, probably fight week, honestly. So not that soon, but for fight week, I'll make an in-depth breakdown of who I think is going to win the fight. But I think at this point, I'm leaning slightly with Khalil, but I'm going back and forth. But I'm assuming you guys are leaning with Yuri. I could definitely see Yuri winning. But let's see, what do we got here? They got any new news here? No. Yeah, it's been a pretty slow week. For the fight week itself, there's not that much to talk about. The main event's interesting. Co-main event is interesting. I'm happy to see Urseg fighting again. I think. What do you guys think about Steve Urseg, by the way? I think he gets back in the win column. I still think he's really good. I still think he has a chance to be a contender. I just think he ran into 3 guys that were great. And Pantoja, who's one of the best flyweights ever. Moreno, also one of the best flyweights ever. And for For KKF, I think Urseg's better than KKF. I think he just got caught, which is a part of the game, obviously. But it's unfortunate. But I think in this fight versus Ode Osborne, I think Urseg kind of styles on him. I think Urseg even finds the finish and gets right back on track. And from there, he'll probably fight a couple more contender fights. Hopefully get a couple wins, get back in the rankings, and maybe be a legitimate contender again in the not too distant future. That's kind of what I'm hoping. Urseg is currently number 10 in the rankings. So we'll see where my boy Steve goes. But I'm very high on Steve, and I'm a big fan of him. So I'm biased. Colby versus Burns. I'm fine. Yeah. Honestly, it probably makes sense. It probably does make sense because both of these guys, I think, are probably washed, and they were both kind of great fighters at the same time, and they never fought against each other. So maybe at this point, you can put the fight together. And outside of each other, I don't really think Gilbert beats too many guys in the rankings, or really anybody in the rankings. And for Colby, I definitely feel that way. I don't think he beats anybody at the welterweight division, in the rankings at least, and maybe even unranked guys. I just think Colby is washed. Really, what Colby did best when he was in his prime was shoot a million takedowns, out cardio his opponents, and find a lot of takedowns. Even if they were able to get back up, he'll just take you down again. Kind of similar to Merab's style. Not as effective as Merab, but similar style to Merab. But at this point, it just seems like his strength is completely shot. His cardio is still great, but his strength is completely shot. And he's struggling to find takedowns on Joaquin Buckley, who was taken down 4 times very easly against Kamaru Usman. So Burns is done, but Colby is really done. So maybe they fight each other. Who'd you pick for Silva versus Lopez? I'm heavily leaning towards Silva. I'm actually very confident that Gene Silva won the fight. What Lopez does really well in most of his fights when he's able to win is he does a good job at just blitzing his opponents and just being more physical than his opponents, landing big shots, finding the KOs or TKOs, and just winning from there. But in this fight against Gene Silva, Gene is really durable and he's really physical. So I think he can take big shots from Diego. And if he's able to land big shots on Diego, I think there's a real chance he'll be able to find the finish. It seems like Gene Silva's power is ridiculous. So I'm leaning with him, but it's not only the physicality. The real big differentiating factor is the technical ability. Diego Lopez is kind of technical, but I wouldn't say he's that technical. And for Gene Silva, I think he's very technical alongside with his power and with his chin. So very surprised if Gene Silva doesn't win the fight. But we'll see. I definitely think he'll win. I think Lopez will Silva win on this or a late TKO. Both of them have great power and a great chin. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think that Silva's going to get Lopez, but maybe it will be like a later KO. It is a 5-round fight, so maybe it will be a later KO. But yeah, they both have great chins. The type of shots that Diego was taking from Volk was ridiculous. I know Volk doesn't hit that hard, and especially at this stage in his career. But Volk was really loading up on big right hands, and Lopez was kind of leaning into it and taking it clean, and he didn't really get hurt at all in that fight. So he has an amazing chin, but as I said, the power between Volkanovski and Silva is very different. So I think Silva gets him late, but we'll see. If it is a decision and Lopez is just taking damage, and kind of just eating shots, I guess it could happen, but I think Silva gets him. But yeah, honestly, I was talking about this before, but there's a lot of really fun cards coming up after this weekend with 319, Shanghai, Paris, even Perth, then 320, and then Vancouver. There's a lot of really fun cards. The only card I'm not really looking forward to is the Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez. The main event is great, as I said, but every other fight is just meaningless and not fun, if we're being honest. I hope they add some more fights to the card, but at this point, it's really just the main event. That's the main selling point of that card, which is kind of ridiculous because it is in an arena. You're trying to sell tickets. I don't know how many tickets a card like that is going to sell, but the main event's really good, so maybe that does all the selling. We'll see. Lopez can probably fight at 155, probably later in his career. He's huge. I think he will. If he loses to Gene Silva, which I think he will, I think he'll consider it, honestly. And if not now, later in his career, I think he will. He's really big for 145. And as he does get older, the cut is just going to get more and more difficult. So I think before his career is all said and done, he'll be fighting at 155. But we'll see. I mean, he hasn't missed weight at this point, so he's doing a good job thus far. But when you get older, the weight cuts just get more and more difficult. And especially if he does decide to add on more muscle or put on some more weight or whatever, the cut's just going to be that much more difficult. So, yeah, he'll probably move up. What do you think would happen with Colby in American Top Team? I don't know. Is it out what happened? I don't remember. It was so long ago. I mean, I know him and Jorge were not fans of each other. I feel like what happened is probably out, unless it's not. But I feel like it's probably is. Maybe the American Top Team just wasn't happy that he had his beef with Jorge. I don't know. To be honest, I have no idea. But yeah, then he decided to move gyms, and now he's training with Nate the Train, baby. Nate the Train in the UFC, the legend. But yeah, I don't know what happened. By the way, Nate the Train is another guy that's probably not on roids. I think it's safe to say that he's not. A couple of guys in the same gym that aren't. By the way, did you hear that thing? It's probably BS. I talked about this before, but did you hear that report from Chael that he said he was talking to Dana White, and Dana said there's something like ridiculously huge coming out later on this year? I don't know. I mean, Chael reports on BS all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't real, but it's interesting. Also, do you guys remember when Dana himself said that, I don't remember how long ago this was. I think this is in 2024, when in a press conference, he's like, there's something huge that you guys aren't even seeing, that you guys will not see coming, that's going to happen in the near future, and we just never heard anything about it after. So I wonder what that was, or I doubt he was just like BSing. I'm sure like there was something, maybe it just fell through or whatever. But I wonder what that was. And I guess we're kind of hearing a similar thing now. So I don't know. Who do you think Gamrot should fight next? Let's see. My boy Gamrot. So he's coming off a loss to Dan Hooker. That was his last fight, right? Dan Hooker, I think it was. So he's number 7. He's probably going to need to fight back in the rankings. You can do Gamrot. It's just not going to happen. But I think a fun fight, honestly, would be Gamrot versus Patty. But Patty's going to be pushed higher up in the rankings than Gamrot. Maybe you can rebook Gamrot and Fiziev. That fight didn't play out the way it should have, as Fiziev just got hurt. He just blew out his knee. So maybe you can rebook that fight. I think that makes sense. Everybody else is kind of booked or doesn't make sense. So I would probably say Gamrot versus Fiziev. Probably what I would say. But I also would like to see Gamrot versus Patty, but they're not doing that. Patty's going to fight Gaethje or something. Or for the belt, maybe. Now he won his last fight. Oh, he won his last fight against an unranked contender. I forgot his name. Oh, okay. Who the fuck did he fight? Let me see his... Did he just out-grapple him? Is that what happened? Oh, Gamrot beat Ludovic. Okay. Honestly, that's a pretty solid win. So maybe if he's coming off a win, he should fight ahead of him in the rankings. Let's see. Is there anyone that makes sense ahead of him? Gamrot already lost to Hooker, so that doesn't make sense. Gamrot versus Gaethje, that's a weird fight, and that's not happening. Gamrot versus Oliveira, probably nah. Yeah, I stick with it. I think Gamrot versus Fiziev makes the most sense. That's what I would say. Even though he is coming off a win, usually when a guy's coming off a win, you like them to fight ahead in the rankings. But even with that being said, I just don't think these guys ahead of him make that much sense. As he already lost to Gamrot, he already lost to Hooker. He's probably not going to fight Gaethje. That fight's not happening. Could he fight Charles? Maybe. But I think Charles has other matchups that are more fun. Could he fight Max? Maybe. But once again, other matchups that make more sense. And Arman versus Gamrot, could you rebook that fight? Maybe, but they're probably not going to do that. And he's obviously not fighting for the belt. So, yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, Gamrot beat Ludovic. Yeah. That's a pretty good one, actually. That's a very vague statement. Which one? That he should fight ahead in the rankings, or he should fight... Which statement are you talking about, brother? Dana's statement was very vague. Yeah. Well, he kind of just said like he has something planned that nobody's going to see coming. So yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like nothing ever came out about it. I don't know if they're still working on it. Probably not. I mean, it's been a while, so probably not. But I don't know. Man, everyone's going to Michael Chandler here. Chandler's got to stop with the Conor stuff, though. He's really got to stop. I know he kind of got like effed over by Conor, and I get it, but listen, he's not fighting Conor. It's very unlikely that he's going to fight Conor. If Conor comes back, which I don't think he will, but even if he did come back for the White House card, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I think he might even fight somebody else. The fight that I want to see personally is do Michael Chandler versus, I said it a million times and now I forgot. Let me see. He just fought. Do Michael Chandler versus, let me get you guys the name. Versus Ribovich. Michael Chandler versus Ribovich. I think it makes so much sense. For Ribovich, he's a really exciting fighter. I really think he's one of, if not, well, he's not the most exciting, but he's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. But they consistently put him in the Apex. I know he had that one fight in the Sphere, which is great, all-time fight. But outside of that, he's been mostly in the Apex. Build the guy's name a little bit. Put him up against a Michael Chandler. I think Ribovich wins. He's shown a great ability to stop takedowns. And on the feet, I think he just knocks Michael out. So put that fight together. And the UFC has been doing that sort of fight forever, where they have a young up-and-comer against an older guy that has a big name. I think it makes a lot of sense. But obviously Chandler wants the money fight against Conor, and whatever. But I think that's the fight to make. Chandler versus Ribovich. That'll be fun. But that's got to be like the main card of a pay-per-view. Even though they're low ranked and Ribovich is unranked, that's got to be the main card of a pay-per-view. It's just too good. It'd just be too good of a fight. But yeah, what else? Yeah, nothing else. If I'm Dana, I would set up Ilia versus Arman, Charles versus Max, Justin versus Patty, Garen versus Zeev, Danaga versus Dariush. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I agree with you. I really want to see Ilia versus Arman. I think Ilia still beats Arman, but that's definitely by far the toughest test at 155 for Ilia. So I would like to see that. Charles Max, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think Max wins. Kind of unfortunate. Charles is going on a little bit of a losing streak here, or would if he loses to Max, if they even make the fight. But I like the fight. It'll be a really fun fight, and it makes sense for the rankings. Justin versus Patty, I think, makes a lot of sense as well. I just don't think Justin is willing to fight any fight that's not a title fight. But he's going to either have to retire or just, grow up. I don't know. Listen, he doesn't deserve a title shot at this point. So if he gets a fight against Patty, I think it's almost a blessing for him, just because if he wins that fight, which I think he could, he'll get a title shot for sure. So I agree. I would do that fight. And then Gamrot Fazeev, as I said, I agree with that one. And then Dan Hooker versus Dariush, I think that could make sense as well. That definitely could make sense. But yeah, I like it. We'll see if Dana's able to do it. I think a lot of those matchups Dana would like to do. It just some of these guys just don't want to fight each other, and becomes difficult. Is Michael Chandler too deep at this point? Yeah, I mean, listen, Michael Chandler's he's oh, you mean with the Conor McGregor stuff? Maybe it's just in too deep. But listen, just give it up, and if it happens that you do fight Conor, then great. Then you get to shut everybody up, and you get to go forward from there. But with these things that he keeps posting on Twitter, like 300 days or whatever, or I'm gonna fight Conor next, or if the fact that he just keeps bringing it up, it's like, bro, give it a rest at this point, right? But listen, as I said, I think Chandler's washed at this point. I think he really showed that in his Patty fight. So maybe the best option for him is just fighting Conor. Honestly, I think Conor may win that fight. But outside of the outcome, fight Conor, make a lot of money, and potentially be on the White House card, and then retire from there. I don't know. It's probably what he's thinking. There's probably not that much in for him if he were to fight Rubovich. Outside of a fun fight, he's probably not going to make that much money for fighting Rubovich as compared to Conor, obviously, for one. And for two, Rubovich is young and good. So I think it'll be a much tougher fight for Chandler. I think he gets knocked out. Charles Glass chin and poor striking defense would make you. So, I agree with you. I mean, he has a weird chin. I don't want to say he's a glass chin. He gets knocked down a lot, but he survives. It's just like it's kind of like a not as good, but it's kind of similar to a Colby Covington chin, where he'll get dropped a lot, but his chin is still like solid, I would say. Colby's chin is definitely better than Charles's, but it's fine. It's not amazing. It's not bad. It's fine. But his poor striking defense is a problem. And I agree with you. Max will be the favorite if they put that fight together, and I think he wins the fight. But yeah. Arman should have had Charles spot at 317. He's got to be next. Yeah, I agree with you. He should be next. We'll see. Earlier on, I really felt like the UFC was not going to give him the shot next. I thought they were going to give it to Patty, which I guess theoretically still could happen. Patty definitely doesn't deserve it, but I guess theoretically could still happen. But at this point, it does kind of feel like there's some more rumblings of Arman getting the next shot. And I would personally like to see that. That makes the most sense. It's the highest skill fight. It's Ilia's toughest fight, which is what you want to see. As I said, I still think Ilia beats Arman, but you like to see the best face the best. And the best in at 155 is Ilia and Arman. So it would be good to see them fight each other. But we'll see. Whenever you have like a star mixed into it, like Patty is, you always, there's always some shenanigans going where he'll get a little bit more preferential treatment as compared to a guy like Arman Tsarukyan or whoever else. But yeah, because also from Topuria's perspective, Arman's probably the guy he wants to fight the least, as Arman is by far the toughest fight between him, Gaethje, and Patty. And also he's a smallest name out of those three guys. For Patty, he's somewhat of a star at this point. For Gaethje, he's a legend. Somewhat of a legend in the sport. And for both those fights, I think they're easy victories, relatively easy victories for Ilia. But for Arman, it's a tough fight, and his name's not that big. So I'm sure Ilia would prefer to fight somebody else, not Arman. But we'll see. What do you guys think of Joe Pyfer and Abus Nurmagomedov? Who do you guys got in that one? I'm leaning Joe for sure. But the first round would be good. But I think Joe takes it. Joe Pyfer's a solid fighter. He's got good striking and good power, really good power, decent grappling. Topuria and Patty have more leverage than Arman. I agree with you. The fact that Arman missed weight was like literally the worst thing for his career. Just because, maybe if he lost to Islam, that would be worse, honestly. But it sucks because he's kind of in a bad spot. He's the clear number one contender, but the UFC and Dana are just not that happy with him at this point. So if there's any other contenders at all, I think the UFC would probably just favor them and give the shot to them. And obviously Topuria also wants to fight Patty the most, I'm assuming, out of the three. And Patty's a star, and he's coming off a win. He's undefeated in the UFC. He definitely lost to Jared Gordon, but he is undefeated technically in the UFC. So maybe the UFC just decides to do that. I don't know. But time's ticking. If they're going to do, I thought what they should do is do Patty versus Gaethje as a number one contender fight, but they're wasting time. Ilia said he wants to fight in December, and if he wants to fight in December, they're really wasting time at this point. So they're probably, at this point, I'm assuming, if Topuria does fight in December, I'm assuming they're just going to give it to Patty or Arman, just without fighting anybody next. It's going to be one of those two guys, I think. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. Patty versus Ilia size comparison is going to be crazy. Yeah, we already saw it in when they had their little face-to-face. Patty is so much bigger than Ilia. But, girthy. I think Mike Chandler is slightly taller. Yeah. But, yeah. Now, the size difference is insane between the two guys. I thought Topuria, he's not even big for 145. So now that he moves up to 155 and he's fighting one of the biggest 155ers, Patty might be the biggest guy, honestly, at 155. The size difference is ridiculous. So that's something to think about. And if Patty can get a takedown and he's able to get top position, it'll be something to think about. But I just personally think it's not going to matter that much. On the feet, I think that the differential and skill is so vast that it's not going to matter. I think Patty's just going to be on the outside, leg kicking, utilizing footwork, staying out of the range of a big power shot, which maybe will last them a round, maybe 2 rounds. But eventually, I think Topuria cuts off the cage, forces Patty into boxing situations, puts together combinations, lands a couple of big shots, a big right hand, and finishes him. I know Patty's had a great chin, and he's a lot bigger than Ilia, but I think Ilia is too skilled and too powerful, and eventually he'll find the knockout. And in terms of Patty finding a takedown, I just don't think it's super likely, even though he's a lot bigger than Ilia. Patty's wrestling is not that great. His jiu-jitsu is tremendous, but his wrestling is not amazing. And Topuria has shown a pretty good ability to stop takedowns in a lot of his fights, and even against Charles. Charles has really good wrestling, and Charles wasn't able to take Ilia down. I know it's a short fight, and maybe if the fight went longer, it would have been a different story, but the limited sample size, we saw Topuria wrestling at 155. He passed the test against a really good fighter, a really good grappler. So I think Ilia wins relatively easily. Patty's the biggest ranked lightweight. There's also a guy dancing Bahamondes, I think. Yeah, Bahamondes is really big as well. The difference though is Patty's like huge, like he's tall and built or whatever, but he's also like he's got weight on him. He's got muscle on him. The thing about Bahamondes is he's the tallest guy. I think he's the tallest guy. He's got to be the tallest guy at lightweight, but he's not really. He doesn't really have all that much muscle at all. So that's the difference. And yes, it is an advantage for Bahamondes because he's going to be taller than everybody else. If he's able to fight at range, he's going to be able to land a lot of shots where he can land, but his opponents can't land on him. But if you're able to get on the inside, that advantage isn't really there. But for Patty, if he's able to take you down, he'll have a big advantage on you. But yeah, both of those guys are huge. And I think we're kind of seeing that, to be honest. I think it's like a general trend the guys that are the best, not always, obviously you have to have skill as well, but the guys that are some of the best fighters at each individual weight class, champion or ranked contenders, are usually guys that are just really good at cutting weight. Like Dricus is just really good at cutting weight. He's bigger than basically everybody at middleweight. If you look at the welterweight division, and you look at Michael Morales, he's a guy that's had a lot of success thus far. He is skilled, of course, but he's kind of just bigger than everybody else at the weight class, and he has a good ability to just stop takedowns, get back up if he does get taken down, and he's kind of just bigger than everybody else. And we're kind of seeing this a little bit. Of course, skill does matter. You can't have no skill, but if you just cut weight better than everybody else, you're probably going to be a pretty good fighter at an individual weight class. But yeah. Do you think Islam is good enough to enter the top 15? I do. I think he's really good. I do think he has a lot of skill. Let's see who's number 15 at welterweight right now. MVP. Yeah, Gabriel Bonfim, D-Rod. I definitely think he could. I think the bottom three are not that strong of welterweight. D-Rod, Bonfim, and MVP. I don't really think either one of those three guys are that good. But yeah, he'll be in the rankings. He'll be there. Do an Adpinal impersonation. Hello, John. No, I can't. I suck in dude. How do I work on impersonations, chat? I suck. It's kind of a part of Guru kind of started a trend here where he's really good at doing impersonations. I got to improve on it. Hello, John. That was terrible, bro. Fucking terrible. I'll give you this though. I'll give you a sound bite.
Danny, your mom's a fun card.
But yeah, I don't know. I suck at impersonations. Here we go. Artem Lobov. Yeah, he's fighting in the PFL. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Artem's back, chat. What do you think? Just listening to the interviews and stuff. Yeah, it's a good point. I'll work on it. I'll work on some of my impersonations. Report back to you, fellas. See if I can improve. MVP is a problem for anybody. If you can't grapple to beat an MVP, striking these guys from yeah, listen, MVP has a style that on the feet at range, nobody's going to beat this guy. He's just too difficult to outstrike at range. But if you can grapple, I mean, that's really his biggest weakness. You just got to grapple the guy. And I think his next fight against Jared Cannonier, I think Cannonier wins. Not that Cannonier is the best grappler in the world, but he's going to have such a physical strength advantage over MVP. How I see the fight playing out is I think he's just going to pressure MVP, get him alongside the cage, clinch, and just land a bunch of knees and elbows from there. And I think he wins a boring decision, but that's kind of how Cannonier is going to win the fight. Can win the fight, and I think that's what he's going to do. But yeah, MVP on the feet at range is a big problem. He's very difficult to fight. Very weird style, and just seems like nobody can figure it out. Easy loss for Artem. Yeah. Artem the Goat Lobov. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm going to watch that fight. It's a PFL fight, so I can't say I'm going to watch it, but I'll probably watch maybe some highlights after, see how he does. But yeah, unbelievable, chat. But yeah. Anyways, chat. It's been a fun live stream. It's been streaming for like 2 hours, 18 minutes. It's been fun. Thanks for all your question, boys. But I think I might hop off at this point. We'll hop on again for a live stream tomorrow. We'll get back to it. 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Also on Saturday, I will be doing a full watch along for the Delice versus Fluffy Hernandez fight. So be sure to be there if you're interested in that. But yeah, without further ado, peace out, boys. I'll see you boys tomorrow, 8 p.m. And also check out the Antiba video that I posted today if you haven't seen it. But anyways, peace out, boys.